and Councilmember Ray Danker.
Here, present.
And District 4, Councilmember Denise Mitchell.
Presidente.
And Mayor Pro Tem Mackey.
Present.
All right, next we go to the amendments and the approval of the agenda. Where is City Manager's report, I believe? We dropped it. Okay, let's go to the amendments and approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
I had
Councilman
my
Hugh
hand
had his
up.
hand up first.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
Yes, I had my mic on, so I was going to check with staff if it is possible to have the boulevard come before us before the mark.
Councilman Hugh, could you please repeat that so all of us can
The
hear?
items on 1991 Boulevard moving up before.
Move it up before the mark.
That's at council's discretion, so
Yeah.
we're ready to go.
What does the
But
council
are
think?
the representatives here?
I don't see him yet.
Are you expecting anyone from them? Maybe John is or John from the, okay.
Oh, they will not, they're not here yet. They have, yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor. They were trying to, we tried to contact them to try to move them up, but they were originally scheduled, I believe, for 8:30.
Okay.
So as soon as they get here, we'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. We can suspend the rule and can change the order
Okay.
later on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman. All right, I believe there is a motion.
Yes,
And
I made the
sec-
motion,
And
Councilman.
seconded by
Mayor Pro Tem Mackey.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The agenda has been approved. Councilor Simmons, did you want to make an amendment? Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the very first item on the agenda, which is 2025 Employee of the Year, and this will be taken by Michelle Holloway. Where is Michelle? Actually, she is the Employee of the Year.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The City Manager, HR, and the Youth and Family Senior Staff are here to present the Employee of the Year Award to Michelle Holloway. She's a family therapist in the Department of Youth, Family, and Senior Services. This award is selected by the Personnel Committee, a group of employees represented by each department. Ms. Holloway was selected as the winner from a prestigious group of honorees. The pool of candidates include one Marion Wolf recipient, one Spencer Harris recipient, and 12 employees of the quarter. I would like to invite Ms. Barbara up to read the nomination and also the city manager up to present the award in check.
Wonderful. Good evening, Mayor and Council, residents, colleagues. It's my pleasure to be here again for another really special occasion. I'd like to talk about our family therapist and in 2025 Employee of the Year, Ms. Michelle Holloway. We'll have her come up in a moment. We know she's so excited to come up. She's extremely humble, but I'm going to also read the nomination that was actually written in by our clinical program manager, clinical supervisor, Ms. Jessica Prentice, who is also here, along with we have her daughters and other members from Youth Family Senior Services staff. So Michelle began her career with the City of College Park on August 1st, 2022 as a licensed family therapist. As our Human Resources Director said, she was nominated for her many attributes and dedicated skills to the City of College Park. Among these are her facilitation of several teen groups, which have been happening in the city over the past several years. These groups focus on issues that are important to teens and have helped them overcome many obstacles that they face, as well as building new friendships with others in the group, many of whom the people have just met. She really is magic when it comes to that. About a year ago, Michelle worked tirelessly to plan and organize a special spring spectacular event for her group after hearing that some of the students wouldn't be able to go to their prom or have other graduation celebrations at the end of their school year. This event was a huge success. We used the new College Park Woods Clubhouse, and the group celebrated its growth since they've been in the group. The space was decorated beautifully, and the event included games and other activities that the teen group enjoyed in their group meetings. Michelle sought input from other group members on how to make the event their own by asking them to submit songs to create their own group playlist that we had a DJ playing at the event. She also had them choose and vote on affirming superlatives for each person in the group. Because there is a growing mental health crisis for youth and teens, with an increase in the number of high school teens who report persistent feelings of sadness, loneliness, hopelessness, as well as an increase in teens who report great levels of anxiety. This teen group that Michelle facilitates has become a source of additional support that teens and their families can depend on in our clinical program. They feel connected, and because of Michelle's dedication to the groups, they receive the help they need. Your coworkers, manager, director, and dare I say, mayor and council, and our city manager greatly appreciate the dedication and initiative you have shown in the performance of your duties. Your service sets an example for everyone, and we thank you. Thank you again, Michelle, for your dedication while serving the residents of College Park. I present our 2025 Employee of the Year, Ms. Michelle Holloway, licensed clinical professional counselor.
Speaking? I just want to say thank you very much. I am very humbled and very honored. Thank you.
You want to go to that side, that way you don't have the background. Yeah. Congratulations, Michelle. Okay, ready? All right. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm really bad. I'm just going to take like 50. So there you go. There we go. And get it. Thank you, Michael. Okay, yeah, Michael Pye. Between the two of us, we got it right. Congratulations.
Good. Let's do another round of applause. Congratulations, Michelle. Thank you for your dedicated service. We are so grateful for people like you serving our residents. Thank you. All right. So we have one proclamation to read, and this is actually such an honor to read this proclamation. This will be honoring Madam Speaker Jocelyn Pena-Melnick. And it reads as follows: whereas Jocelyn Pena-Melnick has dedicated her career to public service with unwavering commitment, integrity, and compassion for the residents of the state of Maryland. And whereas Madam Speaker Pena-Melnick faithfully served the residents of the city of College Park as a member of the College Park City Council, demonstrating a strong commitment to community engagement, responsive leadership, and initiatives that improved the quality of life for residents. And whereas Madam Speaker Pena-Melnick has faithfully represented the residents of Prince George's County and the state of Maryland in the Maryland General Assembly, serving as a strong advocate for working families, healthcare access, education, public safety, equity, and economic opportunity. And whereas throughout the distinguished tenure, Madam Speaker Penia Melnick has demonstrated exceptional leadership through her service as chair of the House Health and Government Operations Committee, working tirelessly to improve healthcare systems, strengthen public policy, and advance legislation that positively impacts communities across Maryland. And whereas Madam Speaker Penia Melnick made history by becoming the first Afro-Latina to serve as Speaker of the Maryland House of Delegates, marking a groundbreaking achievement that reflects the progress, diversity, and strength of leadership within the state of Maryland. And whereas as an immigrant attorney and community leader, Madam Speaker Penia Melnick's journey reflects perseverance, determination, and a steadfast belief in the promise of public service and civic engagement. And whereas Madam Speaker Penia Melnick has continuously championed initiatives that uplift the underserved communities, expand access to critical resources, and ensure that all residents have voice in government. And whereas her dedication to collaboration, mentorship, and service has inspired countless individuals throughout Prince George's County and beyond, leaving a lasting impact on local and state governance. And whereas the City of College Park recognizes and celebrates Madam Speaker Penia Melnick's outstanding contributions to the residents of Maryland and her continued commitment to building stronger, healthier, and more inclusive communities. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Mayor and Council of the City of College Park, Maryland, do hereby recognize the honor Madam Speaker Jocelyn Penia Melnick for her exemplary leadership, historic achievements, dedicated public service, and enduring commitment to the residents of the City of College Park, Prince George's County, and the state of Maryland. We extend our sincere appreciation and best wishes for continued success in all future endeavors. Proclaimed this 12th day of May 2026, Fazil Kabir Mayor, City of College Park, and we'll be all honored to present this proclamation at tomorrow's town hall with the 21st delegation. And please do attend that town hall tomorrow at this room at 6 o'clock. We'll be honored to present this proclamation, and there will be a conversation with the members of the 21st delegations. So please do attend that. Thank you.
Excuse me, question, Mr. Mayor. With the proclamation that you just read that's going to be read tomorrow will also be translated in Spanish as well.
That's a good idea. It's already been done? No. We can certainly do. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for suggesting it, because she is the first Afro-Latina members of this, actually, speaker. Thank you for the suggestion. All right. Let's go to the next item on the business, and that is discussion on the preliminary plan of subdivision and the detailed site plan submittals for the MARC to be located at 4313 Knox Road and 4330 Hutwick Road to redevelop on an existing student apartment building by raising the buildings and constructing 2 new student apartments buildings with a total of approximately 590 dwelling units with associated site infrastructure and amenities, including a central promenade. And this will be taken by the Director of Planning, Miriam Bader, and Carlos Nunes, our Senior Planner. Director Bader, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. For the record, this is Miriam Bader, Director of Planning and Community Development. Tonight, the City Council has an opportunity to discuss the preliminary plan of subdivision, detailed site plan, and the associated variation requests submitted by the MARC. I'll briefly summarize the project, public benefits, transportation improvements, and the staff recommendation. and then the developer will also be making a presentation. On March 4th, 2025, the MARC came before City Council to discuss their request to rezone their property to a planned development. On April 15th, 2025, the MARC came back as an action item. City Council voted unanimously to support rezoning with conditions of relevance tonight. Two of the conditions were including that the lesser of 200 beds, or 10% of the total number of beds, shall be designated as moderately priced, and that rent shall be set with at least 30% reduction from market rate per bed based on comparable configurations in the College Park student housing market. The project site is approximately 4.53 acres. It's located at 4330 Hartwick Road and 4313 Knox Road. The existing College Park Towers buildings will be demolished and replaced with 2 new student housing buildings containing 589 dwelling units and approximately 2,030 beds. The project implements the previously approved rezoning from RTO LE to RTO PD. PD stands for Planned Development. As part of that approval, the applicant committed to several public benefits, including a public pedestrian promenade, a pocket park, a pollinator garden, bicycle and micro mobility improvements, green building elements, a future Ancestors Lane connection, and reduced price housing opportunities. One of the reviews the City Council can discuss tonight is regarding the preliminary plan of subdivision. The preliminary plan is to consolidate 2 existing condominium parcels into a single lot. Garage access would be provided from Hartwick Road only, with no vehicular access from Knox Road. Public easements are also proposed for the pedestrian promenade and the future Ancestors Lane connection. The applicant submitted a traffic impact analysis showing transportation impacts are within acceptable limits. The project also includes several bicycle and pedestrian improvements, including raised bicycle compatible crosswalks, artistic crosswalks, and potential bike lane improvements along the project's frontage. The development includes 2 buildings with interior courtyards and heights ranging from approximately 7 to 10 stories. The western building contains the parking garage. Exterior materials contain masonry, metal panels, cast stone, and concrete. Because the property is located within the Aviation Policy Area 6, the FAA reviewed the project and determined it not to be a hazard of air navigation. The project exceeds the minimum parking requirement by providing 573 parking spaces, which is 184 spaces above the required 389 spaces, in a 2-leveled underground garage. The parking includes ADA spaces, EV charging spaces, visitor parking, and delivery spaces. The project includes several public amenities centered around the pedestrian promenade connecting Knox Road and Hartwick Road. Features include plazas, seating areas, public art, interactive installations, wayfinding signage, a bicycle repair station, and a pocket park with a pollinator garden. Private amenities for residents include courtyards and a rooftop pool. The City of College Park City Council at their meeting on April 15, 2025, voted unanimously to support approval of zoning map amendment ZMA 2024-002 at 4330 Hartwick Road and 4313 Knox Road from RTO LE to RTO PD, subject to conditions outlined in the staff report. The conditions included that the lesser of 200 beds, or 10% of the total number of beds shall be designated as moderately priced. Another condition was that Rent shall be set with at least a 30% reduction from market rate per bed based on comparable configurations in the College Park student housing market. This concludes my presentation. Staff is available for questions.
Before I bring applicants, is there any question or comments? Councilman Ranger.
Yes, thank you, Director Bader. So just to do some clarifying here, the MARC came before Council on March 4th, 2025 to present their proposal to rezone the property. That was the initial time they came before us.
Yes, that's correct.
And I think this is helpful too, just to set the highline. I wasn't on the council for that meeting, and I know we have others who weren't. Was affordability mentioned by the council during that meeting as a major concern?
Yes, that was a primary concern council had.
Great. And so then the MARC came back a little over a month later requesting support for its rezoning requests to the county.
Correct.
And at that April 15th meeting, it was the MARC who brought to staff and council these two options about affordability, ensuring that some affordable units, either option 1, 200 beds, or 10%, the lesser of those two, would be 30% below market rate, or option 2, which was based on an AMI formula. Is that the MARC is the one who brought that to the council and staff?
Yes, that is correct.
So was there a suggestion?
During the first meeting, the city council requested that the applicants come up with some options that they could live with.
Right, and those were the ones that they said.
Correct. That's what they came back to the council with. Yes.
Great. And I was there for that April 15th meeting. I'll just share again that there was a lot of discussion at that meeting about affordability, and that was the biggest single concern of council. Mr. Rigg made the motion. I'll read it here. I move to support the zoning map amendment ZMA 2024-002 to rezone the property at 4330 Hartwick Road and 4313 Knox Road from RTO-LE to RTO-PD, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report in the form of the modified option 1. Option 1 shall be modified in the following ways. One way is the 30% discount rate should apply to comparable configurations across student apartments in the city of College Park. And with regards to eligibility, that eligibility will be primarily based on Pell or veteran status or a mutually agreeable criteria based on economic need. So that was the motion that was made, seconded, and passed. So in your opinion, was it clear from this discussion within the meeting prior to that motion and vote that that the council was approving this with the conditions listed, including a 30% discount for qualified individuals?
Correct.
And of course, but now we're seeing only 10% discount. Did we end up writing a letter to the county and supporting their zoning map amendment with those conditions listed out as you
Yes,
included?
we wrote a letter of support with the conditions that we have discussed, with the 30% reduction.
Great. And have we as a city supported their request through this process since the time of that meeting?
Yes, we've supported their request with the understanding that there would be a signed declaration of covenant that will be between the city council and the applicant.
Did they ever inform the city of their intention to go back on their promise from 30% to 10% before the conversation came to the conversation around the declaration of covenants? To your knowledge?
I would say that after city council made their recommendation, that there was a lot of pushback from the developer.
But that was certainly what we had agreed upon and voted upon as a condition.
Correct.
And then when our city staff sat down with the MARC and their representatives recently to draft the Declaration of Covenants, did our staff voice the expectation that it would be a 30% discount, just like the proposal that they had put before us and agreed to?
Yes, we freely shared what the recommendation was with them and with planning board and with the zoning hearing officer and the county.
And yet, with all that clarity, during these recent conversations and after over a year of supporting their amendment, they would not agree to a 30% discount,
Correct.
which they originally proposed and which we mutually agreed to as a condition.
Correct.
Great. Thank you, Director Bader.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hernandez and Councilmember Mitchell.
Director Bader, I'm curious as to where we are in the process at this moment in time. I know that when they had originally came by, they were asking to rezone the individual property for the education or baseline education of everyone here. What are we actually discussing for approval, I'm assuming, in the near future?
Right. So what we're discussing tonight's the discussion, the work session, and we're discussing the preliminary plan of subdivision and also the detailed site plan. They will be heard separately at the planning board, and what we learned tonight is that based on the zoning hearing examiner's decision, they said that the declaration of covenants that discusses affordability should be adopted prior to preliminary plan of subdivision. Normally, our process is we do it with detailed site plan, but in this case, since the zoning hearing examiner said prior to preliminary plan of subdivision, we are obligated to do it that way.
When is that hearing scheduled?
So that hearing, just a second.
Miriam, just to
It's
correct, it's at the detailed site plan as per the county council's action of March 6th. So they have moved it to the detailed site plan,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Okay.
Okay. So there was a lot of information in the last hour. So, okay. So that's good to know. All right. The preliminary plan of subdivision is on the planning board on May 28th, and the detailed site plan is before the planning board on June 11th.
Okay. And is the county operating off of the understanding that there will be a 30% discount on the 10% of the units? When they're making their decisions or when they're reviewing the process, they obviously review council's comments. What are they operating their decision based off of?
Yes, but truthfully, the way the planning board does it, they don't get involved in those kind of matters. They might in this case because there was a zoning hearing examiner recommendation, but typically we do a private agreement with the developer and the city because many times the county doesn't take the city's concerns into effect. They'll say it has nothing to do with, their standards.
Sure. Would it be safe to assume that the county is operating off of the understanding that this particular developer has the city's support based off of the April 15th vote?
Correct, because we wrote a letter to the chairman of the planning board and said this was the unanimous approval with these conditions and included the conditions we had in the Declaration of Covenants.
But the details of those conditions are private, or are they public?
They're public.
Okay.
Yeah, they're public. It's just not something that the planning board would add as a condition. We do a side agreement.
So it seems like the entities that are participating in this or that are benefiting off of the fact that we may have provided support, however, only under the conditions that we have provided. So they can freely say, well, we had unanimous support from the council based off the conditions, and now we're revisiting the conditions again here in this meeting today.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Sorry.
No, Mr. Mayor, I think that our attorney wanted to say something, and I didn't want to.
No, I just want to say that the terms of support from the city are listed in the district council's preliminary notice of conditional zoning approval. So there is evidence on the record as to what the city asked for in terms of supporting the project.
And I have a question for that. So if things were to change, if for whatever reason the developers were to present changes and things that have already been submitted, they would essentially be like liable to hold that word, right? Since it's already been submitted for the record, for consideration?
I think that the city could make its objections known if the developer did not honor what had been promised to gain the city's support.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mitchell.
Thank you, Director Bader. I guess I'm somewhat stuck on the part where we made the agreement of the percentage and that it has changed, and now we're hearing about that. Now, maybe I'm missing something. Was that, again, I just want to be clear, you were aware of the change prior to this meeting?
I'm sorry, the change from 30% to 10%.
Yes, you were aware of that change prior to this meeting today?
Yeah, I was aware that that is the developer's request. Let me just clarify a little bit. When I do the declaration of covenants, I try to reach a consensus with the developer. This is the draft that that he could agree to, and I'm presenting it to City Council tonight. It's just a preliminary draft, and it's at your discretion if you want to modify it or change it or go back with the original.
No, and I appreciate that. I'm sorry, Councilman. I appreciate that, Director Bader, but I guess the qualm that comes with me is that I'm going down lane A, thinking lane A has dots A, B, C, and D that was agreed to, and we come now to A is done, now we're on to B, and I'm just hearing about it now. And I think that's not fair to some of us, but I just wanted to get clarification again, and I've heard that.
Can I just add that there may have been the issue of when we were going through negotiations and improving the language that would be acceptable for presentation tonight, but this body has the ultimate say as to what they approve and how we express that to the planning board.
If there is no...
Was rezoning, was the rezoning reconsideration approved by the county?
Yes, the rezoning was. They did put in about providing affordable housing, but they didn't specify at what percent.
I love lawyers. All right, so just to be clear, it's already been approved. Even if we were to rescind that approval based off of the conditions that are being presented today, we cannot backzone it to the original form, right?
Oh, right, but this is another approval.
I know, but they made it past that hurdle.
They made it past
the... With our approval, with our unanimous approval, based on the conditions that they had.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't go back. All right.
I have another question.
Second bite.
No. You have a question?
Councilmember Simmons.
Yeah,
first
she's
bite
the first
first.
bite.
Yeah, let's do.
I do, and I'm like trying to piece together the timeline and considering as well the information that we have in our red folder related to the January 5th, 2026 notice. I'm assuming to the city it says dear person of record. I'm imagining that's how this came to us. Okay, excellent. Thank you. I think I'm understanding, and I apologize, trying to work my way through things, but it seems like the zoning hearing examiner made a decision on the zoning map amendment on December 4th of 2025. That's
correct.
Is that right? Okay, excellent. And then the applicant or the developer appealed it on January 5th, and that's when this letter is dated.
That's correct, and then it subsequently went to the county council in March of 26.
Okay.
And that's the other one that you have is where the county provided a decision, which is the smaller packet, which is there, and that has the information in regards to the things that they asked for in that particular hearing.
Okay. And so on the first page it says the applicant again is appealing the zoning hearing examiner's decision. Particularly the first thing is, or certain things within the zoning hearing examiner's decision, including that the City of College Park's condition concerning the 10% of the beds as moderately priced student housing should be tied somehow to this approval, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems like, and I'm probably restating things that people have already said, so I apologize. It seems like we had gotten the zoning hearing examiner to write into their decision the provision regarding the 10% specifically of moderately priced student housing, and then the applicant is appealing that, and that was already decided upon, and that's how it got
Correct.
removed.
Our submission and those were all part of, those previous submissions were a part of all these different records.
Yeah.
So that particular, piece carries forward through each one of those steps. And so if you follow the steps, that's the city's information is in each one of them.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember, I would like to add that there was a whole section. It wasn't just one. It was several provisions that addressed the issue of affordability, including a 30% requirement.
Thank you. Councilor Hernandez, did you have second bite? Okay, thank you. If there is no question from the council, let us invite our applicant. Please come. He's going to present first. If you could please introduce yourself, I would appreciate it.
Good evening, City Council. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for taking the time and your continued collaboration on this project. Just going to start off with a bit of an orientation. Pretty much know where some of these items are. The context of the project: 4330 Hartwick Road and 4313 Knox Road along US 1, right back there, directly south of the University of Maryland, directly west of the College Park Shopping Center, frontage on Knox and Hartwick Roads. Here's an outline of the project. The total area of the property is about approximately 4.53 acres. It's in the RTO PD zone. It's pending final order. We've gotten the conditional approval with conditions, and we have accepted those conditions. It's in the established communities and innovation corridor growth policy areas. The recommended future land use area is mixed use, and it comprises the residential component of the mixed use area. It's subject to the 2010 Central US 1 Sector Plan, which recommends a residential high land use with dwelling units of densities higher than 20 dwelling units per acre. This project meets several goals and policies of the master plan, such as concentrating high-density residential and walkable nodes, concentrating student housing adjacent to and in close proximity to the University of Maryland, and preserving the character of the surrounding residential neighborhood. This is an overview of the process. As has been discussed, we had a planning board hearing. We obviously had the city council hearing. We went through a ZHE process, which went through the record and every portion of the project. Once we got the recommendation from the ZHE, went to district council. All of that's been completed. We've received the order of conditional approval, and we recently accepted the conditions. Now we're at the stage of preliminary plan. We've filed for acceptance. We have gone through SDRC, which is a subdivision review committee, have received comments from planning staff, and have revised, as well as city staff, and have revised our plans accordingly. We have a planning board hearing scheduled for May 28th for the preliminary plan, and then after the preliminary plan, there's a final plat that needs to be prepared, and that will be recorded in the land records. Certificate of adequacy is a planning director review and approval process. We filed for acceptance and recently received the draft conditions of approval, some of which relate to the bicycle and pedestrian improvements in connection with the project. And then we've got the detailed site plan, similar. We've gone through subdivision review committee, and we have a planning board hearing scheduled for June 11th. Here's some additional important dates for the PPS and detailed site plan. Staff report for the PPS comes out May 14th. Planning board May 28th and resolution June 18th. Detailed site plan, staff report May 28th, planning board June 11th, and the resolution is estimated to come out on July 2nd. These are all tentative dates, as sometimes things change, but these are the dates as they are right now. Here's the development data. It's purpose-driven, multifamily housing primarily marketed to students. The PPS proposes only 600 maximum dwelling units on the property. The detailed site plan, as it currently stands, it has 589 dwelling units, which results in a maximum density of 130 to 132 dwelling units per acre. Building height is 126 feet, 10 stories, and we, as previously mentioned by staff, we are exceeding the required parking requirements. And now I'll turn to Bob Keene of WD Architecture to go through the layout as well as the design and other elements.
Good evening. Bob Kane, WDG Architecture. How do we get that back? So just click this. So this plan, as you all know, has got two significant buildings on it. If you remember, if you know what's there today, it's what I would describe as a very suburban, very vehicular-oriented environment. So this is a complete transformation, which really improves the public space, both along Knox Road and Hartwick Road. What's there today is what we would call a super block. It's not pedestrian friendly. It's not making any kind of meaningful pedestrian connections in the north-south direction. So this project really does a lot for the city with respect to public space. It creates a very well-defined streetscape along Knox and Hartwick Road. It creates a dramatic pedestrian connector, north-south connector, what we call the Greenway. And we'll talk about that in a little bit of detail going forward. And as you can see, there's some private courtyards in the west building, the east building, and on the very left side, you're seeing a pool that's actually on the top. So the residents have effectively 3 outdoor spaces that are private, but the public space, including the Pocket Park and the Pollinator Park in the lower right corner, which is down here, we think are really wonderful contributions to the College Park public space. So just walking around the project, and you're all very well aware of the transformation that's been going on in College Park for the last 10 to 15 years. When you see aerial images of Knox Road, it kind of reminds me of Connecticut Avenue. It's dense, it's urban, and it's appropriate because it is right abutting a major university. And I think the quality is pretty high. A lot of the buildings are relatively modern, including the building we're in. And then buildings like, South Campus Commons, which are more sort of traditional in its composition, use of materials. But all in all, the buildings that are around the site are relatively modern. And because they're large buildings, they use certain strategies to break down the scale of the building, like multi-story windows. Here you see 3-story windows, 2-story windows. You've got a 2-story base treatment. Those are all effective devices of breaking down the scale of a large building. And then just a couple more buildings. You're all familiar with the Standard and Astor, and the Standard, utilizes grids, and the Astor utilizes changes in color, again, to break down the scale of the building on large buildings. So as we look down on the massing of our project, we're hovering above Guilford Road. We're basically seeing the Hartwick Road frontage, and you can see that there's a subtle bend in the building, which is actually important because it's nice to have little changes in plane like that when you have large buildings. You can also see that there's effectively 2 fundamental treatments to the building. You see what I'll call the red and the white. Well, the red is obviously an earth tone that's picking up on the texture and the quality of the university's terracotta masonry. And then this very light gray, we call this the super grid. So we're juxtaposing what we would call a more vernacular palette, which is the red palette, and a more modern abstract palette, which we call the super grid, which is a study in sort of from light grays to dark grays and grids to help break down the scale of the building, like some of the other buildings that we just looked at. So as we kind of move a little bit eastward, again, you're seeing how the white treatment, or this more modern neutral treatment, turns and goes into the greenway, and that's very deliberate. Landscaping looks better, in our opinion, when it's juxtaposed to neutral colors. So at the first 20 feet of this building, as you're moving through the greenway, is actually charcoal colored bricks. So it's actually dark. So you're going to have this sort of, this composition of dark materials and then the lighter materials above playing off of a lush landscape environment, which we think is going to be really fantastic. As we come around to Knox Road, we're now hovering over South Campus Commons. We're looking southward. You're seeing Knox Road. And again, you see the terracotta-like treatments that we call the vernacular, sort of bookending the composition, and the super grid turns into the greenway. And that's the general, I guess, organization of how we broke down the scale of the building on it. It's sort of a high level. As we start to kind of zoom in on the building, you start to see the utilization of these multi-story windows, 3 stories, 2 stories. There's a setback along Hartwick Road, which is per the sector plan actually called for that. So we're 10 stories on Hartwick. We're actually 8 stories and 7 stories on Knox Road. So as we move towards the greenway, you start to see this play of grays, light grays, medium grays, and dark grays framing the greenway. And the greenway is this very unique linear park that's got plazas at both the south end, the north end. There's tables and chairs and benches, and there's these bike channels that you can walk your bike up the staircase. There's accessible ramps that allow people to make their way in an accessible manner as this steps up. So the site steps up about 2.5 stories from Hartwick up to Knox Road. And so we think our landscape team, Live Land, really came up with an elegant solution to this. Again, now we're on Hartwick. We're looking towards Baltimore Avenue. And again, you see the vernacular, what we call the vernacular palette adjacent to Terrapin Row. And then you see the super grid beyond. And then now we're on Knox Road, looking again towards Baltimore Avenue. And again, you see what's close to us is what we call the vernacular, with the dark brick at the sidewalk, so that the red palette, if you will, is somewhat hovering in the air above the darker palette. And then as we move a little bit closer to the greenway, you start to see again how the vernacular palette and this more neutral palette work together. We've consistently inserted what we call these gaskets between the two, and those set up our entrances. So our building entrances are organized sort of where these two palettes come together on the various buildings. And now we're at the top of the greenway. We're looking southward, and again, there's plazas at both ends. So lots of shaded trees, lots of benches. There's little bike repair stations. There's wayfinding signage. So there's a lot of unique aspects to this public space that we think is going to make it a real asset to the entire community. And then this is getting down at the low end of the greenway. And again, you're seeing this more linear plaza, tables and chairs, umbrellas. There's communal tables. There's this large outdoor. It's like a big slab. It's like an outdoor classroom. So it's got like a little chalk tray, and it's meant for people to hang out and do art or talk about math or talk about anything. But it's meant to be almost like a little outdoor classroom. Just one of the many little nuances that our landscape team put into this open space. Again, this is the image we started off with. And I talked about the pathway. So there's there's a direct path, which is walks and steps. So if you want to move through here, you can quickly. If you're walking your bike up these steps, there's the bike channels. There's a couple other places in College Park that we've done that. It's very effective. And again, you've got the ramping going on as well. Here's some images, just precedents really of sort of the combination of steps and ramps and bioretention landscaping, which is what we're going to be incorporating into this greenway. So not only is it sort of a lush tree canopy, shaded tree canopy environment, but it's actually doing a lot of bioretention, which is obviously good for the environment. And then just a couple other features. This grand stairway's actually got some public art on it, so you can see that this is almost showing the effect of a rainbow. In, you know, obviously when you see this from different directions, you'll experience it differently, but it actually helps you see the steps. It prevents tripping, and again, there's bike fixing stations and bike racks and things like that along the way. And then down at the lower end, again, there's these sort of outdoor classroom walls and communal tables and chairs, bike racks, and bike fixing stations. And then the Pollinator Park is going to have some public art. This is actually a detail of the interactive art installation with the chalk ledge. So this will be at the south end of the greenway. And with that, I'll turn it back to Jonathan.
Thanks, Bob. This here is just to show some of the items that are being determined throughout the ADQ for public facility adequacy, the BPIS improvements we're working on, and the traffic levels. There's a traffic report included in our applications, but these issues are very technical, and we've provided the information, but it's not something we need to go through at this moment, but we can answer questions on these as well. Thank you.
Looks like that is the end of the presentation, and you are ready to take some questions. All right, thank you. Let's fire them up.
I mean, to the extent that we may have a few more moments, I think some folks probably want to hear from us before they get the questions.
Oh, I thought you were done with the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Please go ahead.
For the record, my name is Chris Hatcher with the law firm CL Hatcher, representing the applicant on this application. First and foremost, want to thank you all for your continued coordination on this project. It is large, it is multifaceted, it is complicated, and we really appreciate engaging with the city on some of those details. To the extent that there are questions related to the architecture, detailed site plan, and preliminary plan, we can certainly answer those, and eager to answer them. What you saw on the screen is largely similar, if not for the most part the same as what we were showing to you during the basic plan, and there seemed to be some comfort level with that. We continued it through. We're optimistic that that comfort level still is there, but to the extent that there isn't any tweaks to the architecture, some of the recreational facilities, some of the areas, we are eager to continue to coordinate with you on that and to figure out what the next best steps are. We think that, at least right now, the most interesting portion is to really focus on the Declaration of Covenants, because I think the issue of affordability, Councilman Ranker, Councilman Hernandez, Councilman Michelle, to all of your questions, Councilwoman Simmons, to all of your questions really go to content in the Declaration of Covenants. And we're going to break that down into 3 separate issues. 2 of them are pretty straightforward. The third is, I suspect, what we will spend most of the time discussing. The first one being there's a provision dealing with access for manual access to the rooms that are contained in the Declaration of Covenants. At the previous hearings when this issue has come up, we have made a commitment to ensure that a portion of the rooms are going to have manual access to ensure that those with specialized needs can access the building. We reflect that in our plans. We're planning for it, and we anticipate that information will be included in the Declaration of Covenants so that you all can enforce it. However, in our coordination with leaders in that specialized group, they indicated that for purposes of satisfying that group's needs, manual access on the first level was only necessary, and so that's what we're offering. It complies with ADA. It satisfies the group to the extent that you'd like additional information on that. We can certainly provide it, so we're just focusing on that provision of the Declaration of Covenants dealing with manual access. The second issue, and it's reflected in a series of conditions in the Declaration of Covenants dealing with the BPIS. We submitted a BPIS in conjunction with the city. The city listed its priorities. We listed our priorities similar to the city, and we resubmitted that BPIS at the end of last month. For whatever reason, those improvements haven't been reflected in the ADQ recommended conditions. And so we will reiterate now what we said back then multiple times. We are fully supportive of whatever conditions the city wants with respect to the ADQ and the BPIS, so long as they fully comply with the regulations and it does not exceed the legislative cost cap. To the extent that there is some division between the various levels of government, DPWT, DPI, City of College Park, we definitely encourage the city to engage with those entities, and we fully support your position. If you coordinate with them and say, this is what we want, we will be right next to you saying, we support that. And so, again, reiterating that support and want to provide that clarity. On the third issue, and there are other minor issues, but we just really want to focus on these three, deals with affordability. Councilman Ranker, you are correct. At the April 14th, 2025 meeting, the applicant, after coordination with staff on several issues, proffered two scenarios. One, to put them loosely, one dealt with a 30% reduction on the market, on what a market rate bed would be. Again, I'm being very, for purposes, and the other one being 80% of AMI. After reviewing that footage and sort of digesting it, because some of this stuff is happening real time, we sort of come up with a few comments. The first, so that everybody can hear it and it's very clear. To the extent that one of those two options remains the city's preference, let's do it. One of those two options. However, through this process and trying to get to those details, I suspect there is some confusion about how we got to where we are, what's in the documents that were presented to you. And, you know, I'm not entirely sure there's a lot of benefit in digging into the confusion, but we certainly can if you like. However, again, in case it wasn't heard or it wasn't clear, we presented two options on April 14th, 2025. We are still maintaining that those two options are very much accommodatable. I think one of the things that occurred during that hearing, and if you go back and take a look at the footage, you'll hear me say it, you'll hear Hamilton say it, you'll hear us say, there's a lot of details, we need to work with you on the details. Yes, we got to work on the details. So subsequent to that letter, we engaged in a process to work on the details with the city. And the product of that engagement is what's in your Declaration of Covenants, the draft. That being said, for a third time, if one of those two options is preferred, yes. To the extent that you would like any details on any of that information, or we haven't sort of addressed the key issue that's been in front of you with staff, we can certainly provide those details, but I think it's probably best if the lawyers stop talking, we can hear from you and try to provide your responses.
Before I take questions from council, is there anyone from the applicant side who wants to speak? Please go ahead.
Hamilton Reynolds with Landmark Properties applicant. Just want to thank you guys for hearing us out and continuing to work with us over the past year. And like Chris said, we're here to answer any questions.
Nice, short and sweet. All right, let's go to District 3 because this project. Sir, Director Bader, do you have something?
Sorry, I just wanted to update one thing about the BPIS. I did meet with planning staff today at 4 o'clock, and they are going to go with our recommended BPIS. They're going to evaluate it, but they're at least aware of it and putting it at a higher ranking.
All right, let's go with Councilmember Ranker because this project is in District 3, and he is our District 3, one of the two District 3 representatives.
Well, great. I'm excited to see that there's lots of places I can fix my bike when I'm nearby. I'm really glad about the manual keys. You heard us on that, and I appreciate that. And you hear again today, just like every time you come before us, that affordability continues to be the most important piece. So what I just heard you say, and I'm just going to make sure that I understand this correctly, you are committing to a declaration of covenants that has, would have pretty much everything the same except that it would say instead of a 10% discount, it would be a 30% discount for those beds. I think that's in number, I think it's, where are we? Number 7, number 6. No, I'm sorry, it's number 3. So, if everything stayed the same, but for the purposes of this agreement, reduced price bed shall mean a bed offered at 10% discount. If that was changed to a 30% discount, you guys would approve that?
I would say that we would want to discuss the details like we said at that time. I think the language that's used in that document, I think the language, the 30% affordability isn't, there are several issues contained in that condition. One being, what is the depth of the affordability? And the other being, well, it's really 3. The eligibility, which we don't have an issue with, and then the last one is which units does it apply to? With respect to the depth of affordability, what we proffered was, I'm not going to actually speak on that. I think Hamilton is in the best position to say the details associated with the option, which deals with 30% affordability. But there is a distinguishing between what we proffered in terms of the units that are affordable and what's reflected in the document that you have.
That's right. Yeah, what we proffered on that April 14th meeting, or I guess prior to that, that was in the package, was a 30% discount to our 4x4 units would be what we pay, or what the affordable residents would pay on the 4x2 units. So that's where the disconnect has been coming from, is I think the light kind units was added later, so that changes the math significantly.
Yeah, look, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I think really this is your chance to regain the public trust, because even just in the last few hours, we've had many of my constituents coming, and we had some comments coming in after they felt like it was a switcheroo, a bait and switch, you got our endorsement on these conditions. You took it, you got through the zoning amendments, and then all of a sudden you said no. So I think that this is where we really need to be very clear is we're not going to accept a change here in the depth of discount that we have already agreed upon from that April 15th meeting. So I think this is, I want to talk this out because I want you guys to understand, because the last thing I want is we come back next week and we say, no, this is not acceptable, and then you don't get a letter from us.
Agreed. And I mean, I don't want it to come across as a switcheroo because that was not the intent. Like Chris said, we've been trying to work with city staff to come to a resolution on this issue. And I guess Brad
we'll reiterate that there is some confusion about the language, so we're very eager to be before you so we can hear directly from you what priorities are important in light of the unit information. Again, definitely don't want to focus on it, but if you have questions about it, we can answer them.
Great. So this is where I think then, if you want to really get into it, because, for instance, if you are doing a 30% discount based on the price of a certain unit, but it's applying to a different unit, it's just a smaller discount. I mean, like, we know these tricks. And so this is one of the issues that we have that we want to make sure it's clear and that it's getting the students what they expect here. The other is, of course, it wasn't addressed here, but I want to see something about fees. Students will know that some of the places here have lowered their rents or kept it lower, but increased the fees that don't have anything to do with utilities, but it's just another way of getting that. And if the discount, of course, is based on the rent only, and the fees just keep going up every year, we need to have some protection against that. And just another piece that I want to make sure that we're looking at is the timing of things doesn't really seem to match up with our early lease ordinance, which was passed between the April 15th meeting and today. So I think, staff, we need to just look at that to make sure there was an early lease ordinance passed, essentially to make sure that people weren't being forced to sign new leases and 3 weeks after the semester starts. So I want to make sure that comes in. So what I hear you saying, I'm going to pass it on for now, and I'll start drawing up my numbers here so we can really get into the numbers to really make sure we understand what you guys are offering and whether it matches with what we're expecting. So I'll reserve my second bite for
all right. Here's Councilor Mitchell and then Councilor Hernandez.
Mr. Mayor, I will yield to our student liaison because he has questions, and then I'll come
sorry, I
back to
didn't
him.
see your hands. Please go ahead.
Thank you all for being here again. I wasn't here, obviously, for the April and March meetings, but I do remember when you came back, I believe, late November, early December, briefly, to talk a little bit about the plans, not in a kind of firm capacity, but more of just kind of general overview. But I do also want to kind of recollect a little bit on that as well, that affordability also dominated that conversation. And a big element of this is I've been hearing from students in lieu of this thing being on the packet and being discussed today that, the going from 30 to 10 is just unacceptable in terms of, well, it's the truth. It's the truth in terms of the exact affordability for students in this city. College Park Towers, which is essentially a naturally occurring affordable housing unit, has really been a staple for affordability for students. And if we're going to be calling this student housing, we truly have to ensure that it keeps students in mind. And I was wondering if there's been any kind of survey efforts or questionnaires towards the residents of the buildings, especially the ones in College Park Towers too, that might want future housing and they currently rely on the affordable nature of it.
There's a few questions in there, so I'm going to try to address them as I heard them, and if I don't address them all, please remind me. Again, I'm going to describe what has happened to this point as confusion with respect to a real or perceived drop from 30 to 10. If the council would like clarification on confusion, we can certainly provide it, but what we're doing is looking forward to try to say those documents, the commitments we made, those 2 proffers that we made, to the extent that the city would like us to do one of those, great, we'll do it. Again, with the details that we talked about, and I suspect that Councilman Ranker is going to bring up a little later. To the extent of a survey done through the existing HOA or condo association, I believe this portion of the discussion we've sort of coordinated on, where we provided the notice to all the owners, and then I believe we provided some information in the common areas with respect to the status of the application. My understanding is that we also posted something on somebody's Facebook or Instagram. One moment, please. Yeah, I think we actually communicated directly with you, and we were told that you posted it. So we appreciate that. I'm not entirely sure that answered your question. Did it answer your question? I'm sorry if I have not.
Yeah, no, I'm aware about the kind of how it works in terms of, like, you relayed last time with the home kind of being relayed down to like the homeowners or the board as well for the building, like for College Park Towers in specific here. But the truth of the matter is that, like, especially as being a resident of those buildings, there is no notices posted around for students or tenants alike in those buildings. I can see that from being in those buildings, and I think there needs to be a better coordinated effort, but especially when we're considering the element of affordability on its own, which is an additional element of this, because, you know, from what I've been told from people literally down the hall, from people who are reaching out to me for emails, through public comment here as well, that we're seeing from grad students to families to students, the 30% drop to the 10% is just not going to be acceptable. It's not. And if we're going to continue forward, the conversations, we have to ensure that affordability is truly being in mind, because I don't see that cut truly having affordability in mind.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got my to Mr. Hatcher and to the team. I thank you very much for you coming before us tonight. And I think maybe Councilman Ranker has made some eloquent points. It seems that we're stuck about what it means to have affordability. I've been sitting on this dais for a long time, and we've talked about it in the beginning of 2017 about affordability. We talked about it in 2021 about affordability, with prospective developers coming before us, having projects that they would like to do, student projects, and talking about affordability. And they all said to us, yes, we understand what College Park wants, but when it becomes developed, it's not affordable. So we have egg on our face, and it's not becoming something that we want to continue to do as being collaborative discussions and the future of what affordability would look like for students and in general for residents, for the quality of life of them. So I'm stuck on, again, I can't move beyond what happened from the 30% to the 10. I just can't move from that. And now you're saying it was applied to the 4x4 units?
Is that a question?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wanting my clarity for my own personal clarification.
Right. I think that the 30% depth of affordability with respect to the units, I think Hamilton stated it, and I think we'll probably restate it again a couple times. But I do think I do think that further clarity on that.
Okay, Mr.
real or
Hicks.
perceived shift should be provided. So to that extent,
Okay, because that's what I heard Mr. Hamilton
Right.
say, because I wrote it down. And I just want to hear it. That's what I heard him say. So I just want to make sure. So I think as we're tap dancing around, I think we should stop tap dancing and let's get to answering the direct questions so we can move forward to make an informed decision. So can we do that? Yeah.
Please introduce yourself and you want to make a comment?
Yeah, just to, because there's been a couple of references to the confusion around this, and just to take a step back, I joined the project after the first meeting, but was made aware that, and listened to the hearing myself, and was made aware that what had been contemplated. Well, first off, take the AMI. We quickly realized, we had some really good discussions with staff, that trying to do something based on AMI for students is inherently difficult. First off, Prince George's County is in a census tract with Arlington, so our AMI numbers are artificially inflated. Student populations are difficult because a lot of students come from other jurisdictions. So do you test AMI where they're from? Do you test AMI here? Students by themselves, incomes are low. Do you test it based on family income, right? So there's just all these complexities that were difficult to work through. So we moved back to the 30%. It's my understanding, Hamilton said the same, that what had been contemplated was taking the 4x4 unit, reducing the price by 30%, and then that serving as the price for the 4x2 units. And that would be the 10% or the 200, lesser of the 10% of the 200 units. That would create the lowest price point of any bed in the building. We were asked to instead have the affordability throughout the unit types, not just 4x2, but every unit type, and have the price be a 10% off market for all those unit types. That's how we got to 10%.
Can you clarify who asked you to reduce the overall reduction to 10%?
Is anybody? It was by staff.
Okay, Councilor Hernandez.
All right, well, first off,
And Councilor Hernandez, then Councilor Ors, and then Councilor Simmons.
oh yeah, Councilmember Rhodes, you want to go first? It's your district. All right. The answers are starting to get a lot less direct, but what happened to let's do it? What happened to that energy?
Let's do it.
So yeah, right, let's do it. So here we go. I don't know if it was Maya Angelou or my grandmother that said, believe someone when they show you who they are the first time. So against my better demons the last time, I decided to agree to give you my vote to support the rezoning, right? I know it's one vote amongst the 8 or 9, whatever. But I understood that you were working in good faith. So I have some issues, predominantly because we all talked about this in a public setting. We talked about it being a mixed space, whether you joined the project later or not, whether you were on council or not. The conversation is still memorialized. A large portion of the conversation was to get to some sort of deal that we could agree to for you all to take our approval back to the zoning board to rezone the space. You've already reaped the benefits based off of the conditions that we approved. The zoning has changed. Am I wrong?
That's accurate.
Okay, so you've already reaped the benefits, and now, hold on.
I would say the zoning has changed. That's what I was agreeing to.
Okay, all right. So now, it's changing at what feels like the last minute for all of us, right? You have a unanimous discontent on this side of the table, right? I mean, in addition to, you have comments from residents who are just saying the same thing they say about developers all the time. Oh, why even sit there and talk with them, right? So I'm trying to work with you all. We all are trying to work with you, but you're coming with different numbers. So here's my question. When were you made aware that what you proffered, as you guys continue to say, wasn't captured?
We suggested language that said 4x4 units, 30% reduction would be the price point for 4x2 units, creating the lowest price bed in the building We were then asked by staff to revise that to have it be 10% off market sprinkled throughout all the units of the building.
I'll ask it again. When were you made aware that what you proffered wasn't captured?
When were we told to revise
Yes.
our December 23rd, 2025?
So prior to the zoning, hearing. I think the zoning hearing was in December of 2025. Was it prior or after?
Unclear. I can respond to that in a written correspondence back to you.
Because it would be concerning that if you have been operating off of the understanding that we somehow agreed to this, when in public the motion was clear. You're a lawyer, right? The motion was clear, 10% off of 30% of units.
Yeah,
30% off of 10% of units.
I think the applicant is in a really awkward place right now.
Let me switch to our city manager, Mr. Young.
I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. I have been in contact with our planning director throughout this process, and to my understanding, we never changed the 30%. What we did ask them to do is spread it out throughout the units. What they came back with and presented to us was at 10% is the only way they could make that work. So I'm not sure where the fact is coming in that we asked them to go from 30%, which our council asked for, and go to 10%. That makes absolutely no sense.
All right, I'm going to read an email. I talked to Kenny yesterday, and here are his comments. He wants a developer to offer a mix of affordable floor plans. The unit type can be predominantly 4-bedroom, 2-bath. There should not be segregated from the other unit types mixed in. The affordable unit should be offered at a 10% reduction from the market rate for the same type of unit. I mean, it's an email we received. It's not, hold on. I'm sorry, but it's not fair to accuse us of playing a switcheroo or doing, this was what we were asked. And the covenant language reflects this, which was also approved. We were told to amend our language to reflect this.
This is the process for approving the covenant.
Yes.
This is the process for that.
Right now. So let me say this. Now, Mr. Hatcher, we've known each other for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
And when I put my hand up, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I hear you, Mr. Fromm. I hear you. But as long as you've been working in government, and I know you and your reputation, for us on this side of the dais, it feels different. And you can understand that. Am I correct? It feels different as far as what we heard, what we believed, to what we hear now. And that's all I'm asking you. I don't want us to be accusatory to anyone. I'm not saying you.
I know.
Okay, I just said let's talk it out.
That's fine. I just don't. The only thing I blanch at is we weren't operating in bad faith. We proposed language that reflected the language we originally proposed, and we're told to revise it. I think that's kind of an important point.
So it's an important point, but we voted on language that we thought was the language that you were going to use and that you did use for the rezoning.
So just, and I'm not trying to argue here, but just to play this out. So when we received this instruction, we should have ignored it, declined it, said, I know we're talking to the city of College Park, but we should disregard what they said.
I'm not going to give you any suggestion on how you would do your guys' job, but I would have, as a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer, advised my clients, hey, for clarification, what was voted on, right, by the legislative body was 30%.
All right, Councilman Ranker, please go ahead. Oh, Councilman Ors first.
Yeah, thank you. And apologies, I'm still getting over a cold, so I'm a little lower energy than the room calls for. But
take it easy.
So I think clearly there's some sort of miscommunication in terms of what people's expectations are. I think what we're here to talk about and what's before the council is figuring out the Declaration of Covenants. I think it's clear to you that we as a council view affordable housing as a #1 top issue I know that I ran on that as an issue in my campaign. Several other people who've joined council have also run on that as part of their campaigns. And so what we have heard up until now is that, hey, there was going to be a lot deeper help for affordable housing as part of this development. And what we're hearing now is that there's not as much as what we thought there was going to be. And so I think the request for you all is, how can you work with us to show that we're going to live up to what we have proffered to our constituents, that we support affordable housing and we will push every development in order to do as much as humanly possible in order to do that. And I think, that to me, as we're moving forward in terms of what is the Declaration of Covenants says, mm-hmm. I know that, there's been a lot of back and forth on kind of like what was said, what are the terms. I think my clearly was, even if you're saying, okay, let's do it, there's not agreement on what that actually means.
I agree.
And so I think moving forward, would want you to work with us and with city staff in order to have something that represents the affordable housing the needs of College Park.
And thank you, Councilman Oaks. We really appreciate the reframing and the refocusing back on the Declaration of Covenants and how we can continue to work collaboratively on a goal that the city has. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilmember Simmons?
Thank you so much. I'm going to apologize again because I would have timed my questions differently in this conversation. I agree with Councilmember Oates wholeheartedly. I think that keeping the conversation about the Declaration of Covenants front and center, and as our colleague Councilmember Mitchell said, let's get on with it. All of that said, I'm going to act counter to those goals, so forgive me. I'm going to try and be brief with just a number of questions that I have. If you can be brief as well, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, my colleagues are going to get upset with me. But this is not meant to be combative at all. It's just like fact-finding for me. I'm still kind of trying to piece together how things have played out. So I understand that the zoning hearing examiner made a decision on December 3rd and filed it on December 4th of 2025. Is that basically right based on
that seems, I don't have the exact dates in front of me or in the top of my mind, but that sounds consistent. But that's how it would have happened? Yeah.
Okay, great. And so I'm also understanding, I think from the materials I have in front of me, that was a recommendation to the district council and not a final decision. Is that right? Excellent. So your request for oral argument was on January 5th, and that's an oral argument before the district council?
Correct.
What happens if you don't request oral argument before the district council with a zoning map amendment decision from the zoning hearing?
The district council still has to have the hearing. The district council is the only body in Prince George's County that has a legal authority to rezone properties.
What's the purpose of making that request for oral argument or the appeal if they're going to hear it anyway?
We didn't want to lose any potential appeal issues if we didn't file them timely. So whether we had an issue with it or not, we filed for all the things that we thought could be an issue.
Okay, excellent. And I assume as well that it did contain a certificate of service regarding a copy of the request for oral argument being sent to all persons of record. You would have included that in there?
Done that. Yeah, we would have done that. Yes. And I think more broadly, I personally emailed a copy of it or me or somebody on my staff, one of my colleagues, emailed a copy to the city directly.
Okay. That is kind of what I was wondering is I'm assuming that the city would have received the appropriate notice. I see your colleague has a hand up behind you.
Just clarify as far as the service. The district council sends it out, but yes, we sent a copy of the appeal to several parties, People's Zoning Council, planning, the city's planning department. So I just wanted to clarify that as far as who mails those appeals or the notices of appeals, the district council does handle that in that instance.
Oh, okay.
But as far as we still went further to make sure that certain parties had the evidence of that appeal.
Great, thank you. And I am also understanding, I think, that the very first request was that the condition number 10, which relates to our kind of affordable housing question was one of the things that you wanted to remove. And if I'm getting that wrong, then...
That's accurate.
Okay. Can I ask, so I hear you saying we're not doing a switcheroo. I am really just, I think I'm curious then why that was a request for that to be removed upon appeal.
The way it was the way that condition was worded and how it was drafted presented some real legal issues, which is why in the final district council order they revised the language to something else. So there is an affordability condition there. We still don't like the language, but it is more legally palatable. That being said, when we were going through the process, I believe, and some of your colleagues will attest that we've always said we don't think this is an issue for the public entitlement process because Prince George's County doesn't regulate it, and so let's put it in the Declaration of Covenants.
I know that argument well. When was the district council oral argument?
That would have been, I suspect, in February, I suspect. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Somewhere in February, March.
Okay. And I think I understand what the result was. You have a different condition in their final decision. Was anyone present to testify at that oral argument other than yourselves?
I believe the city was there.
Okay.
And the city drafted a letter in support of it.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Those are all of my questions. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone on this end, too, for entertaining me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, let's give our Mayor Pro Tem a chance. She hasn't
I
spoken
just have
yet.
first bite. So it's very confusing, honestly, because you got 10%, then you have 30%. You're reading these things. So what I want to ask is, are you willing to move forward with the 30% discount for 10% of the total beds for every unit, or are you just saying the 4x4s and the 4x2s? That's where I'm a little confused.
Right. What we originally proffered was the 4x4 rate. 30% of that would be applied to the 4x2s. I think it may be helpful if we come back to work with City Council on something that will work. You know, we're not prepared to hash it out.
I understand
right
that. I understand that. I was just trying to get my mind around it because it is very confusing because you read 10% and
Understood.
And
we can
I'm
just-
not a planner. You know, this stuff is always hard for me. But what I want to say is that the one thing that I normally don't really like all this building and stuff, and everyone knows that about me. But the one thing that did make me happy is that you are willing to say that you are going to put affordable housing into the student unit. And so I think that's what is very important, that it's a beautiful unit, the architect, but we really have to just get this down straight, that the affordable housing is something where the students are able to get, know that they can get some affordable housing in this new building. So I know that you'll have to go back and hash this out, and you'll have to hash it out with our staff, but I'm hearing from you that you are willing to go to the 30%. Right, or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, the details matter, but
yeah, the details of course matter, but I see that you're saying that in good faith.
We made a proffer. We will commit to the proffer. To the extent that we want to deviate from the proffer, then that's when the details are going to come in. I think Councilmember Rankers had some questions or comments about it. But yes, we are committed to affordability, as we've stated with our proffers.
Details matter.
Details matter.
Before go to Councilmember Ranker, I see DSP is scheduled on June 11th. So is that the time we have that we can work on that to hash things out? How much time do you have?
I think we have more time than that.
More time than that?
Because the condition says prior to certification of the detailed site plan. But we
Okay.
could be present at the hearing and make our
So we
desires known to the planning board.
We don't need to decide tonight. We can come back another time. Is that right? Okay. Thank you. Councilman Ranka.
No, and I think we can be, well, I'll say that I'm willing to be generous in my understanding of that. There was probably a typo. You guys were pleasantly surprised that we were asking for what would be less of a discount, and happy to go with that. And I'm willing to, give the benefit of the doubt that everybody was a little confused.
Just one quick thing. The 10% against all units would actually be a steeper discount in price than the original formulation.
Of 30%.
But I think that's where we want to dig in here, because I think the numbers and the percentages based on certain units but applying to different units is an incredibly confusing way of determining the amount. Because, for instance, 2-bedroom, 2-baths are usually one of the more expensive units in any of these. I'm speaking in generalities here. Other than a studio, usually those would be the highest price per beds. And let's just say right now one of those costs $2,000 a month. If we're giving a 30% discount based on that number, that would be $1,400 a month. But if we're applying that to a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, which are the cheapest ones, let's say they're $1,500, that's only a $100. That's only a $100 a month discount on those kind of beds. And I think that that's where the real issue is, because, when we talk about it in those kind of ways, using numbers, 30%, oh, that sounds great. Just like if a place for rent says, hey, our rent is only $1,000, but guess what? The fees are $1,200, right? Like, it doesn't feel like it's accurately reflecting what our expectation is in terms of what, and I've been calling this all along, more affordable housing, because it's not, like, let's be honest, it's not affordable. It's more affordable units. So I think that that's where we have the real disconnect. So I think that when we're talking, I want you guys to hear it, because I know that, again, this is going to come back before us and we're either going to sign off or not. When we're expecting a 30% discount, we don't want to play this numbers game like that. We want it to actually be 30% off. And if it's 75% of the units are going to be in a 4.2, then we want 30% off market rate. I mean, we also did change. We wanted to have it as a comparable thing amongst other units in other apartments. I understand we don't want to be, we understand that it can be difficult to gather all that data from you. It's also sometimes feels like comparing apples to oranges. Yours will come online, it'll be the nicest, newest one, right? So I think we understand, well, I'll say I completely understand why that wouldn't be the standard of how we take the amount. But I hope you hear me in saying that it needs to be a 30% off the unit that we're talking about. It doesn't make sense to base 30% off on a unit that isn't the one that we're talking about.
Sure, we hear you, and the only reason we came up with that proffer is that is from a different municipality that we've worked in the past, so we didn't actually come up with that. But
so you think that's doable?
It has been heard, and we'll come back with something that should work.
Good, because I hear you in that. I just want to make sure that we're clear, so that there's no surprise. We don't get confused next week on how things go. And I crunched the numbers, and a 10% discount like this here to a 30% discount, again, based on the numbers of 2,030 beds, 200 beds would be the discounted ones, and I took a $1,600 average cost per bed, which I think we all know when this is delivered that probably at this rate will be on the lower end of what to expect. But you're talking about a little more than 1% of your gross for an actual a discount, and I think that's more than reasonable. That's not even including fees, because again we get into that fees part. So I think you're hearing us loud and clear that that's important, and then some sort of clause in there about fees to make sure that it's right. It doesn't, that's not a back way of kind of getting more money for students and giving less of a discount. And staff, I think, can work with you on making sure that it complies with the early lease ordinance in a way that makes sense and is fair for our students. And I'm happy, Councilmember Oates and I are happy and excited to be a part of that conversation with you.
Certainly.
And we have a response.
Yeah, just we did look at the ordinance. We thought that there was, and this, I defer to Ms. Anderson, but we thought that there was language in there because it said about an agreement with government would be an exception. So we thought that because especially if you're looking at the affordable units and letting folks lock in an affordable price, we thought that would also fit within the spirit of.
No, and I appreciate that. And I think that, because one of my questions is too, there's about currently, or I guess the 2023 numbers were about 6,000 plus Pell Grant students at University of Maryland, about 1,000 plus veterans. So we're talking about 7,000-ish students that could be eligible for 200 beds. We hadn't talked about, the expectation is that you get it for 1 year, but you're not eligible for the next year, because I think the spirit of the early lease ordinance was some people might want to study abroad. Some people, they don't know in September, the following September I'm going to be here. I might graduate early, but then I'm stuck with, So I think you're right. And in the early lease ordinance, students do have the right to be the ones initiating a re-upping of lease. But the problem, the original problem for us is we don't want them to have to do that so early that then they get locked in for something that they, they're studying abroad, they're graduating early kind of thing.
And agreed. And, part of it too is, again, fitting within the spirit, the 200 beds or the 10% would continue to be available until February. So it's not like they could get leased up by somebody else either, so.
Thank you.
Right, it's just if those students don't re-up and they get rented out from under that, the two, I have a feeling these, if it's the truly 30% discount, these are going to go quick. And so then somebody has to make the decision, do I take a chance to re-up September 1 for next year, or do I wait? And, when I come to you guys, it's already sold out, right? So I think that's what we want to think about, how to do that well.
Thank you. Let's go to Councilor Jordan. She hasn't spoken yet.
Thank you, First Bite. Thank you for bringing this to us. It looks like a really lovely project, and all the green space and all the lovely areas that students will be able to study and make the most of their time at the wonderful University of Maryland. So in the spirit of determining what the Declaration of Covenants will be so that we can get on with it, as they say. So I wanted to know, I feel like one of the things that the body is wanting is it to be a 30% discount? Councilmember Ranker, as he just said, that it would, when it gets diffused, then it's much less clear to students, which just seems like it makes it harder on everyone. Even if it's actually a steeper discount, it feels like having this is what it costs for this type of unit, and you'll be paying 70% of that kind of idea. And so one question I have for the body is, am I representing that correctly? And then two, does the body have constraints that we would like to put on which of the units, which of the unit types that we want? Because I'm hearing sort of a difference between 2-bedroom and 4-bedroom, and so I feel like that offering that clarity would be helpful if we have strong feelings about it.
Councilor Hernandez.
As far as my memory recollection of this discussion went, we talked about grouping, the potential for grouping, no, I'm saying like low-income students into just I don't know the sizes, but 4-bedroom, 2-bath, right? And then all of a sudden everyone knowing that was, that's the affordable unit, right? So the idea here and the spirit of the discussion was that in the original discussion, was that the 30% discount would be applied to a range of all of the available suites. 10%, that's what we agreed to. And that way no one really knew that was, oh, that's the affordable unit. Or, I think we had originally started out on just putting them on a floor, and then we moved out to, there was a different, I don't know how many different categories are there. Can you guys remind us? So there's 4x2s, studios.
We have studios through 5-bedroom units.
So that, at 30% would be applied to every, like some sort of mixture of categories that worked out for the numbers.
So listening, do you mind if I
No, please.
respond? So listening to the April 15th council meeting, what I heard was that objection, and then it was responded to with, it will, while the 4 bedrooms would be the ones with the discount, there would be many 4 bedrooms with no discount, and so in that way obfuscating like who's getting what. Is that no longer of interest?
That was never my understanding.
If I can respond here, I think. Do you guys have the numbers on how many 5-bedroom units, how many 4-bedroom units are in currently? So it looks like 163. 163 5 bedrooms, 191 4 bedrooms. Is this right? This is in the.
Those would be units.
28 studios, 21 1-bedroom. Yeah,
that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm also. Is my assumption that the 5 bedrooms are 2 baths, or are they 5 baths?
5 baths.
So probably 4-bedroom, 2-bath is the cheapest unit, even though it's not the most bedrooms.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Well, I do want to caveat that it is going to be market driven. So
right.
Typically, yes, but can't say for
exactly.
sure.
I think in this proposal you had 75% of them being 4-2 with 25. I mean, that comes out to 150 beds will be in the 4-bedroom, 2-bath, which means not even every unit could have a an affordable bed, and that just leaves 50 left between 5 bedrooms, 3, 4, 4, 2, 1 studio. I don't need studios or 1-bedrooms being affordable, but I would like to see a little bit of a mix in there, so
Is
that other 50 beds.
Is that what the body in agreement with? Is there something we can agree on? What Councilman Ranker is suggesting, proposing?
I agree.
Okay. Cool. Did you hear, Councilman Jordan? Okay. All right.
Chris Hatcher here. Again, to the extent that we made those 2 offers, and one seems to be focused on the 30%, again, inartfully, the 30% reduction, let's do it. To the extent that we're talking about something other than those 2 options, we're going to have to look at it because these are new details for us. I do want to express some reservations with going into too much detail about what units you want where, about what level of affordability, because we got to do some analysis. We got to figure out what works. We got to figure out how it's sprinkled through. We got to figure out a lot of things, and candidly, those things are very much market driven. And so I'm expressing resistance, not expressing resistance to the level of affordability. I'm expressing resistance to the unit types being so specific to alleviate the private sector to try to address what you're asking. Because it just creates a situation where you're going to say you want this, you want this, you want this, you want this. Mind you, with no legal obligation, we're just trying to fulfill our commitment to you, and it's just making it more difficult. We have the commitment, we want the commitment, we want to do it. We just need some flexibility.
Yes, I hear that, and I appreciate that. I think, again, I'll reiterate, just like if a student is looking at going to a university that has a $100,000 tuition, and they're like, hey, we're going to give you a 30% scholarship based on what you would pay at University of Maryland. You're like, 30%? That sounds like a lot. Oh, wait a minute. It's actually not a lot. So, that's my biggest concern is the real dollars that it's actually, you're getting. And that's the thing that I will pay attention to most is, are we actually talking a real 30% discount, or is this just, looks good? It's like, you go to buy something and somebody tells you, well, it's on sale for 50% off. Well, they just jacked up the price by 66%, so it's actually not as good as you think. So happy to work with you guys on that. Let's get to that 30% discount.
Can you clarify who you would like us to work with?
Mr. City Manager, I'll
be happy to take it on.
Great, and we'll defer to the city manager on who joins with that. So all the communication can go through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the District 3 council members.
Certainly, and they can update us. Councilor Hernandez, maybe this is the last comment?
It looks like Nick.
Okay, after that? Sure.
Yeah, I'll defer to him first.
You want to go first? Despirita?
Thank you. I think, obviously, everyone's really said kind of the same points that I agree with in terms of getting to that 30% discount, and I understand there might have been some misconceptions or confusion through all of it. Obviously, I was not there in the original meetings, but I do want to emphasize as well, especially for, the current residents of College Park Towers, the importance of involving them in this conversation. So whether that looks like working with the board to set up a town hall kind of event for residents there, or some other kind of way that they can contribute to the affordability conversations. Because I really think you guys need to listen to the residents who live there, because a lot of them too, if they're coming to me and saying the way that this is written currently is going to force me to move out of the city, this is not going to work. So I really think that it's important to have the conversations with them as well as you continue with city staff going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hernandez, last comment.
You also said that you'd go in the last meeting, that someone would somehow contact them. All right, so really quick.
I thought we had. We never contacted you?
No, I'm saying that you didn't create a town hall. There's article when you did that one. I remember that.
All right. All right, thank you. So let's do it. Just copying you.
All right, it looks like Director Bader's got something.
Okay, just a clarification. So do we want to come back and we'll do it as an action item on June 2nd, Tuesday, June 2nd?
I think we have enough time to hash out, right?
Refer to the city manager and to the
June 11. We still have a month. I think that's good enough time.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
The applicant will meet upon request at any moment to resolve this issue.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
All right. So I understand affordability is complex. You mentioned there's a whole bunch of different numbers. Don't you already have affordable developments in DC?
In municipalities that support the affordable housing ordinance, yeah.
Okay, so you guys know how to do it. There's a way to do it to pencil out the numbers. It's possible. It's within the realm of possibility. I understand the complexity is there.
Most municipalities give some type of
guidance?
Subsidy for it.
Yes.
Or guidance.
Okay, well, we took council action. And that's the most we can do as a body, right? I understand it was for the rezoning. I understand that we're talking about what the Declaration of Covenants is going to look like. I was operating on that day that what we were voting on to support the rezoning efforts was going to be a part of and included in the Declaration of Covenants. I just want that to be clear. I think that's a safe assumption that the rest of the members on council, and our constituents voted on. But I understand there's a disagreement. I understand that some of my more open members of colleagues are willing to discuss it. I'm going to hold you to the 30%, or you're not going to have a unanimous vote. And listen, I know that you can walk out of here, Mr. Hatcher, and you guys don't have to take our council recommendation. But listen, I will lobby all the way through to make sure that our opposition is well known and well understood.
Thank you. Thanks for stating that.
Thank you.
All right, so we still have actually close to a month until June 11, and our city...
We'll go quick.
We'll go quick, yeah. And our city manager, Mr. Young, will be point of contact between the applicant and our two colleagues on the District 3 will be heavily involved, right? Thank you.
Just
Your
one
last comment?
clarification, not affordability related. I just wanted to give you the information about the district council, since you were asking for those dates. So the hearing was held on February 9th, 2026. The approval was issued on February 23rd. I think it was sent after that date. And then as far as the condition or, opposition to the conditions, that kind of thing, the main thing, I just wanted the clarification for the record, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. All right, thank you again. Let's work together, and for the last time, let's do it, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's make it affordable. All right, so that is close to 2 hours discussion. Let's go to the next item. So we have actually 3 major items. This is the second one, which is
Go ahead and
the
sit here.
Boulevard of 1991. Our deputy city manager is going to take it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I guess you might. Okay. Oh, I think we're going to take a minute break, Mayor. Okay.
They'll be nicer in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like everybody needs a break.
It looks like the council wants to take a recess, maybe.
Yeah, I think they took an official recess, which I'm okay with. I'm okay with.
Maybe 3 minutes recess.
Yeah,
We come back at 9:30.
Put everything.
Thank you.
Yes, we all need a bio break.
minutes.
9:31. Let's get it started, please.
All right, thank you. Mayor and Council, today we're going to be bringing you this Michelle Bailey Hedgepeth, Deputy City Manager for the record. Today I'm going to bring up Mr. Tim McDonald and Mr. Chris Lassard in regards to the Boulevard at 9091 project. They're going to be providing an overview, but from the standpoint of the staff report and what we've provided you today is that primarily what we're asking for, what the developer is asking for in this one is a letter of support for a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of taxes with the county, not from the city of College Park. This project is located at 9091 Baltimore Avenue, and I'm gonna have the applicants to sit at the table if you'd like, so that you guys can address the council directly. But to provide some additional information on it is that this project was brought to. You can go right there, Tim. Was brought to the DSP of this is a revived. I'll say it's an older DSP. The project was first brought forward in 2007, and in 2016, there was a revision of the DSP. The applicant has gone back to their original development site plan. Which now has a mix of different properties. So if you want me to, Tim, you can tell me to move forward on the PowerPoint, because I will do it from up here if that makes sense. If you guys want to go through the PowerPoint first.
Looks like the PowerPoint is up.
Yep.
Please turn the mic on, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Chris Lassard, Managing Member of Metropolitan LLC. We're the applicant. We originally had a site that we did for sale townhomes, and then we had another site fronting on Route 1 that was going to be a multifamily building. We've gone through different mixes, trying to target the right mix. Our current approved application is one that shows the student targeted, which shows 67 3-bedrooms, 94 twos, and 63 studios and efficiencies. Subsequently, we have an application in now, which we're about to get approved, which changes that mix to 243 units and putting a lot more emphasis on studios 1s and 2s and less on 3s. And that's where we're about to get approved. Now, what we have been doing is we've been going through and having discussions with Chairwoman Jordan and with also people in Prince George's County. So we've been getting feedback, so I will be commenting about what other people have said we should take a look at in the process, and we have been taking a look at it. One of the comments from Chairwoman Jordan was she wanted to have more 3-bedroom units for families. We did take a look at that. We could add 5 more in the tier and readjust. It'll be the same total units that we have. We were concerned that if we did too many 3-bedrooms, we would be encouraging students, which I know that has been desired for us to stay as a market rate building, which is what we're trying to do. There's other benefits that we've been looking at. We have a lot of different improvements on Route 1, also off-site. We have encouraged, for instance, part of our request, not a request, but what we're willing to do is open up some of the investments for community investment on our site, which is a 5%, which would, because we're part of the OZ Zone 1, we might be part of the OZ Zone 2, which has other benefits, which we won't really know till summer. We have currently 366 structured parking spaces where we are required by zoning to do 44 for potentially neighborhood to take off pressure from parking in the area. Instead of the 44, we're actually doing 66. We have also taken a look at the bridge improvement on Baltimore and University Interchange, which was in addition to what we already have required to do in the proffer. We've been sitting around trying to get this project to work for a long time. Part of it has been a revenue, part of it has been a construction cost, and over time, interest rates have been going up, and inflation has been causing pressure, and we really do want to get this project started. The next slide.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about the fact that we've shifted the emphasis on more professionals and not students, trying to relieve the pressure on the single-family neighborhoods and also trying to bring some families like professors also closer to the university. We solved the adjacent townhouse parking shortage, which has been significant, and part of the improvements that was requested is on Cherokee, which is off-site, in order to improve the road cross-section and help with the existing parking problem there too. We're trying to reactivate, it's really our current site is like the hole on the donut on Route 1. Since we started, everything was vacant, and now everything is built up around us. So we do need help in order to move forward. And we have promised a lot of improvements on infrastructure. We'd like to make sure that we have a viable job in order to get those things moving forward. The improvements that we're doing is Route 1 Cherokee Street intersection improvements, and we are talking about maybe extending some the cross-section that you have in other places over the bridge with some lighting. We have Route 1 University Boulevard Cloverleaf improvements. We got Route 1 turning lanes, and we also have a project-funded shuttle service at the University of Maryland. There was an idea that was floated up in our last meeting with, sorry if I forget his name, Eric? Yeah, Eric Olson of Prince George's County. He suggested that, he suggested that we should change, we have a widening on Route 1. He would like for us to not to widen it and not necessarily widen the ramp that has been requested, because he's trying to get a better pedestrian cross-section. So he felt it was more important to improve the bridge and try to get a better street frontage detail. Now, since we're trying to move forward with a pilot, we wouldn't risk the pilot in order to do those things, but it is something that we would consider, because I actually think it's a better solution. Next slide. Yeah, we've been asked a lot of questions, for instance, on zoning. We have an approved plan. This is really about funding. And we've hired Unicap, which is not here today, but they did analysis on how many jobs. We also took a look at, and we have several different versions of workforce housing. The one that we initially came with was 10% of the project to be 80, 100, 120. Then after the meeting, we've come back with a second proposal, which is straight 10% of the project being 85%. We have looked at and requested, I think Michael's been trying to have us look at 60%. So we looked at that this morning, and we could offer a 60, 80, 100, 120 at 10%, and we believe we can make that work. But like I said, we've been having meetings, a lot of meetings over the last 2 weeks, so it's been kind of fluid in terms of getting input from everyone, and we've been trying to listen and respond to anyone's comments. The public amenities, we have community public space. Our health club is being shared by the townhouse neighborhood. Also, we're giving 66 spaces for the neighborhood pressure to try to solve some of the problems in the neighborhood. We are doing the local investment access, which we talked about. Then Municap did a long-term city tax revenue in order to take a look at what we're asking of Prince George's County and the revitalization component that we're asking of the city itself. Then we also are funding the transportation shuttle, which at the time we started this process, the Purple Line was being discussed back and forth. There is an advantage now that we can maybe be able to extend the Purple Line in order to get more cars off the street. Now, some of the issues in terms of pricing and why are we here and why we need a pilot. We have been looking at permanent loan, conventional loans, also HUD 221D4s. We have an appendix in the package later on that talks about Berkadia is giving us our guidelines. Obviously, the rates are higher, the thresholds are higher, everything's different. In terms of the bank floor, it's at 9.5%. And even with the county pilot, we're getting to an 8.29%, so we're still slightly under the floor number that we need to get to. On the permanent loan basis, the trouble with permanent loan, and we believe that we'll be short, so at permanent financing, we would still need $6 million when we permanently finance, which is too high a risk to where we would take a look at a HUD 221D. The issue with that is it adds $11.6 million of cost because of Davis-Bacon wages that we're required to do to get that type of money. So that's the reason that we need it. And in terms of our ask, we've been needing a formal letter to from this group to Prince George's County supporting and endorsing our pilot application. Then the inclusion of the tax credit District 1, and what we're asking Prince George's County, which is why we had our meeting earlier this week, was a 15-year payment in lieu of taxes and agreement at 75% on real property tax abatement. And then partial or full relief on some of the other fees, which WSSC, building permits, and other things. You know, we did take a look at student housing one time, and part of the benefits of student housing is that it really generated a whole lot more revenue, of basically up to $1 square foot revenue. The other thing is that we also pay the school requirements of the state, which is $20,000 per unit. Now, there's a lot of deadlines that we need, but the one that's important and the one that's relevant to and why we're here is that on June 1st, we need to submit for our county pilot application. So we're requesting to get a letter of recommendation from the city to go along with that county request. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? So, staff, could you please tell us what is expected tonight from the council?
So again, the council, we're asking the council, one, to provide any comments to the developer, and also for what the developer is looking for from the council is a letter of support for their pilot. Yep.
Yeah, the tax credit application is not tonight's discussion. That probably will be coming later.
I'll let Michael answer that.
Thank you. So since the DSP has already been established a long time ago, that kind of disqualifies us from a tax credit perspective in terms of applying for tax credits. The applicant understands that, but we are trying to get ideas about how we could assist and help the project come online, but no tax credits for this particular project available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying it. All right, let's see. Let's give opportunity to our District 2 colleagues because it's just on the northern part of District 2 boundaries. Thank you. Starting with Councilor Jordan.
Yes, thank you. So at first I would like to disclose that I met with the developer and staff on May 6th. So this has certainly been a long process for this project. And I'm sure my colleagues will have their say, especially the ones who've been on council for a number of years as this project and development has been a part of College Park. It should be said that many residents do feel slighted by some of the prior behavior of the developer, specifically the clearing of trees, the lack of the promised parking, and the silt runoff that resulted. However, we are here today to move forward for this. The development would bring needed workforce housing, parking, area improvements. This is the Route 1 gateway to the city, and we would like something that would showcase that. This is coming with sidewalk improvements, lighting, bike lanes, parking, retail, and the housing, of course, itself, to be a place for university professors, professionals, workforce, and their families in College Park. So I have, having said all that, I have a few questions, but I'm sure that my colleagues have plenty as well. So for the parking, this was something that was promised many years ago when the Cherokee Street townhomes were built, and so this would be a way to bring that about. You listed that it was a total of 66 parking spots for the existing townhouses and then potentially the retail spots. But I understand that it's 45 spots for the townhouse residents. Can you just clarify for me for the record?
Well, I was looking at it with Tim earlier, so I think his comment was because of the way we segregated the parking, that in terms of the open spaces that are off the street, we are, I think, required by the DSP to be how many spaces? Hit the.
You got the other one. Yep. The actual covenant requires us to do 45 spaces, and because the modular dimensions of the garage, the entire first floor is open, and that yields 66 parking spaces. And once you get up to the top of the ramp, then that's a secured parking for the residents. So there'll be 66 parking spaces
open to the general public.
Okay, so at any given time, they could be full and not necessarily available to the townhome residents. Is that correct?
Townhome resident visitors, because the townhomes park themselves. And as we mentioned, for retail or guests that come to the apartment component.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I was also asked about whether they would need to register their vehicle, and so that sounds like that answers that question. My second question is about the timeline and the general movement of this project. So June 1st is the pilot application. Can you please tell me what changed to allow you to move forward with the project after all these years?
Well, actually, the pilot is what we need, and we haven't gone for a pilot yet, and that's actually why we're here. I would like to answer some of the silt question. I'd like Tim to explain. We have a temporary stormwater pond where the actual building will eventually be. There has been issues with storm runoff that he could explain what's actually happening.
Yes. There's been some localized flooding right as soon as you get off the ramp and on our side of the northbound side of Route 1, and then also on the southbound side in front of the Chinese restaurant. We went out there and we had a meeting with State Highway, with Prince George's County, and also with the Department of Public Works, with City of College Park. And what we found was, when we opened up the inlets, we found everything from hubcaps to parts of cars, silt, and so forth. So we cleared out those inlets, and we also cleared out what we call the outfall structure that goes, down near our property. We cleared out the inlet across the street, but we also televised the pipe that goes from the west side to the east side. And about 10 feet off of the west side curb lane, the pipe is crushed. And we showed the State Highway Administration, and they said, well, that is, that's their problem to rectify. But our ultimate design, when we build the structure, our apartment structure, we will have a subterranean stormwater management vault that will pre-treat the stormwater, and then it gets discharged into basically like a leach field that's located already in the green space of the townhouse. And it will be purified and absorbed into the ground. So you won't see any, in a sense, surface pond.
As a follow-up to that, because the stormwater runoff was a question asked by many residents.
Yeah, that stormwater management facility is temporary until the structure gets built.
Okay, but you said that you went and viewed it, and there was this crushed pipe and all those things. Can you tell me when that occurred? What occurred? Was that in the last year? Our
initial meeting that we had was the middle of January, and we committed that we would take care of it within 30 days. We had that massive snowstorm. And we actually had it done by, I believe it was the 15th of February.
Okay.
So you can go out there when it rains and you won't see it flood on our side of the street, so to speak, but there's still ponding water in front of the Chinese restaurant.
I appreciate it. I find this very helpful and very encouraging.
Let me clarify. In terms of the pipe crushed in front of the Chinese, is that the State Highway going to take care of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that all you have? You have more questions, right?
I'll let.
No, please continue.
And so, regarding the clearing of so many trees many years ago, can you explain to me what the canopy you'll be providing will be, and whether it will be in College Park or elsewhere in the county?
We'll be doing two plantings, so to speak. We'll be planting street trees along Cherokee and also along Baltimore Avenue. Then internally within the courtyard, we have a very good landscape plan that has large trees there with shrubs and so forth like that. And then we have an obligation based upon our covenant that we're supposed to do 2.5 acres of off-site reforestation to be determined.
All right, thank you. And then finally, one of the big questions that came from residents was also about the traffic pattern that will be around Cherokee and Baltimore Avenue.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
Yes.
When the traffic study was done, I believe it was 2013. The flats had not been built. A lot of things have changed.
Yes, we had a plan approved by the State Highway Administration back in October of 2017. Subsequently, since the project wasn't built, other buildings were built in its place. We just went through a lengthy redesign to accommodate the traffic loads that are now present based upon those occupied buildings that are across the street from us on both Cherokee and also on Route 1. And we have designed with conformance from the state of Maryland pedestrian crosswalks with pedestrian signalization.
All right. Thank you. I'll let others go now.
Councilmember Simmons, District 2.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I do have a number of questions, and I agree with many of the concerns and statements that my colleague raised, just that those are things that we have heard from the community. I understand that there is a long history with this site, something that I'm sure many of my colleagues have much, much more information than I do. So part of my questions are just to kind of better understand a little bit of the history. I am really curious why, I know that the trees were cleared from the site many years ago. Why were they cleared? Were you all anticipating developing at that point in time and it just kind of dissipated, or what was that strategic?
It was a long time ago, and so he probably doesn't know. It's a long time ago, and I don't remember, and that's not necessarily good. Not necessarily a good answer.
I was only in high school then.
No, but I'd imagine that
we have all been there.
I imagine that the storm pond was the temporary storm pond that we needed was probably one of the reasons, but I didn't actually manage the initial construction of the project.
The only thing I know, there's a huge outcry in the community when that happened.
Yeah. I think that's something, particularly with phase projects, and I understand this is water under the bridge now, but I think particularly with phase projects in the future, if there is a way to think about like tying site work and grading to something a little bit more specific so that we don't have instances like these, and I know that is not feedback for you all, it's just kind of thinking about future projects. I heard you say that you'd not considered the pilot previously. Why is that?
It's actually a very good reason. One of the reasons that we took a look at the mix was to try to increase revenue so we wouldn't need to come in front of anyone to ask for pilot. So we've studied that, and we tried to do it within the existing building and try to maintain existing firewalls and loading structure and stuff like that. And that's what the reason that other plan had a different mix, but also had a reduction of units to a 224 unit versus 243.
I am not sure that I understand, but I do believe that you answered my question.
Well, I tried. Be honest with you, we actually probably should have looked at it earlier.
Hindsight. All right. I appreciate it. The candor. I do have a couple of questions for staff, but before I get to those, I know some of the questions I have, particularly from some of the folks in the townhouses, are just kind of sheerly logistical. When it comes to the amenities that they'll be able to use if and when the project is developed, do we have any idea how that will occur?
Well, we're required what's the number?
We're required, per the Declaration of Covenants, to have basically facility to be available to townhouse residents.
If you could please come closer to the mic.
I'm sorry. Per the Declaration of Covenants, we're required to have those facilities available to the townhouse residents and the immediate community.
So we're not sure about logistically how it will work at this time. I think that is...
No, I'm sure we're going to have basically a controlled building, so we'll have to, basically issue passes.
Some sort of access.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Understanding that there will be 66 spaces, and this may be a question for staff, maybe joint question. Understanding that there will be 66 spaces instead of 45, and the current Declaration of Covenants says 45, is that something that could be updated to say 66?
Well, we're in the process of asking for a pilot. I'm sure there could be some accommodations. I mean, we've already added other things that were beyond the original zoning, which is part of the dialogue. And one of the slides that I didn't show was the cross-section of what we think we can do with the bridge. But that's something that's also not in the original zoning either, so we would need to go through some level of process to bind us to do some of these things in order to get the pilot.
I appreciate that. And just to be clear, I'm thinking of that more as a correction as opposed to a proffer necessarily, since you're already planning on doing it just kind of structurally how the garage is. But I'm sure that's just a note. I am curious, when you were talking, you said 60, 80, 100, 120, 10%. This was in relation to the units that might be moderately priced, and I did not catch. What does that mean?
Well, it goes back to the definition of what people generally think workforce housing is. Now, people have difference of opinions, so I'm sure that they may differ on it. But normally, that's usually 80, 100, and 120. Now, there has been requests from Michael to look at 60%, which we did look at 60%. We also did take a look at going to another financing vehicle like LIHTC, but then we would lose all our ability to have the advantages for the OZ1 program, which is one of the reasons we're doing the site to begin with. Another reason it probably didn't move forward any quicker was because we initially paid for the site in cash, and it's still, there's no debt on it, so it's not like it's a motivator like an interest clock I'm having to pay monthly on.
So when you said 60, 80, 100, 120, 10%, what did that mean?
That would mean that there would be, to get to the 10% number is 24 units. So we'd break up in 6, 6, 6, and 6.
Okay, I think that I understand. I will say, and I'm sure that you all heard the robust conversation earlier this evening, really not that long ago, regarding housing affordability. And I also, technically thinking about workforce housing, I hear and appreciate what you're talking about with that kind of like 80 to 120 range. There is a desire, I think, on this council to see more deeply affordable units. So staff has represented that accurately. I think it's supported by our Affordable Housing Task Force report that we received just a few months ago, maybe back in February. So I would really encourage that we think particularly about those lower ranges, understanding that there is a lot of demand there, and just truly as many units as possible in the like 50 to 60% range. And with a longer control period, I think I saw in an email this afternoon that you all were thinking 10 years for those rates to apply. But in many jurisdictions that have moderately priced dwelling unit ordinances, they require 99 years for rentals. I think there's a lot of room in between those two things, but 10 years does seem quite short to me when we're thinking kind of about the long-term goals for our city. I have questions for staff about the qualifications for the revitalization tax credit, but I'm going to let my colleagues get in the mix on this. So thank you very much.
Councilor Hernandez and Councilor Hill, right? And Councilmember Mitchell. Please go ahead, Councilor Hernandez.
Hi. So I live just down the street on Cherokee. So I'm very familiar with this property. I walk up to Route 1. My first question is, when was the last time you all visited the property?
Probably 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago? So, and all right, that's good framing here. Where is the entrance going to be in the proposed development? I didn't understand from the models. Is it going to be through Cherokee or is it going to be on Route 1?
It comes off Route 1, goes, I don't know, about 200 feet, and then goes in the garage and off Cherokee.
Oh, there will be an egress into Cherokee?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's the current approved plan, and also it's coordinated with the Flats building next door.
Well, immediately in front of the Flats only entrance. So I just want to make sure that folks understand, because I see it on a daily basis. the entrance would be one to Cherokee if you're heading westbound, one to this particular property in Metropolitan. And the traffic study, when was the most recent traffic study conducted?
Yes.
There was a recent one because we were changing the building, so we were getting staff approval, so they requested some updated traffic information.
It was done back in October.
Of 2025?
Yes.
Imagine my shock when it of course came back approved. It's wild. It's just realistically, I'm not trying to be combative here. It's more the real world implications of that like particular street on Cherokee is going to be felt pretty heavily on the residents. I'm not trying to stop you guys' project here, but and we don't really have the power to do that. But I think I had seen in one of the correspondence that if you didn't have the city revitalization tax credit, the pilot, and the HUD, that this project would not be financially viable. Is that still true?
Correct.
So if for whatever reason the city is not able to do anything with it because of our current rules and procedures or the way our ordinance is written, what is your guys' plan?
Probably let it sit until times change. If the numbers don't work, I can't make a bank give me a loan.
Okay. Well, you guys have been doing that since 2013 or even earlier than then.
Yeah, and ultimately, one of the things we did, we looked at change it to more of a student-oriented product to help revenue. That didn't work, and then we take a look at the pilot to see if that works. But I can tell you that without a pilot, the jobs can't go forward. And to address some of the affordability issues, we're having trouble with what we've committed now to make it work, which I went through some of the numbers to do that. There's a lot of costs associated on the cost for the project to build 243 units.
Sure.
I didn't show the appendix that was in the presentation. We have roughly close to $8 million in additional costs, which is almost 7.5% of the total budget in additional type costs that we're trying to do. And ultimately, we do want to deliver the improvements to Cherokee, and we do want to deliver all the things committed on the road improvements. But it needs to have numbers to make it work.
And I'm not a betting man, but the costs are going to likely rise, right, from where they are now, just from the rate of inflation. And I'm not here to discuss the finances. It's more just, it's hard, and I spoke to my colleagues about this. It's hard to fathom or understand how delicately a project can be funded, given the fact that it's sat idle for over 13 years. That being said, I have been educated by one of my colleagues who explained to me that these are difficult times and that finances is needed for most, if not all, development projects at this time, especially those who incorporate affordable elements to it. So I do appreciate you hearing us out. I will be honest with you, where I'm leaning towards is not to support any sort of tax revitalization at this time, given the conditions that have been presented. I would welcome productive conversations about what the numbers look like. But of course, I'm going to defer to my colleagues. I will say, I am really troubled by the conditions that your property is in. Currently, the improved portion of the property has a fence that's been broken or bent out of shape. Not even to use a turn of phrase, it's really bent out of shape. And it's been there for, the larger part of a year. And since the way the grading works, since it sits higher on the hill of Cherokee, we receive all of the runoff, right? And I know that you guys are addressing it. However, since I've been paying attention, there's a huge need for some sort of stormwater mitigation or flood control to be done in the immediate. And I understand that that's probably why we want this property improved. But the fact that we haven't done it, or you guys haven't done it for 13 years, is troubling. So that's where I'm at, and I just want my colleagues to know that. And then I'll just reserve my comments for later.
Thank you. Councilor Hill and Councilor Mitchell.
I'm not really sure where to start here. I live across the street from there on Ottoville, And I've been around a while. I was there to negotiate with JPI that property. And I just find it beyond me to grasp and understand how you're using a 19-year-old DSP when they generally expire in 3 years. Okay. You say that you wanted to do student housing there, and now you're doing us a favor by going to workforce housing. JPI never was going to allow students in their development. Eventually, when Monument both Monument and you guys split the JPI project, Monument found out eventually that it couldn't keep students out. But you decided to turn this into a student housing against any agreement to begin with. Okay. When JPI got that DSP approved, it was because it was the two properties, the Monument property and your property, negotiated at the time. The Monument property was a long-time vacant lot that had the Hillcrest and had the Lassics on it. It sat vacant and it was an eyesore. We wanted to see it developed. We were working with the property owner. I was a liaison in the community, and a lot of the provisions that your property got was because what JPI was doing on the other side of the street with the Monument property. So you guys got a lot for that property. You got a lot of leeway going from that original agreement, from that original DSP. So it really bothers me that, you know, almost 20 years later, 19 years later, we're still talking about that same DSP. Things have changed. Development has changed. Your history has not been great. You know, you left us with a flood issues, with stormwater issues. You were supposed to build out the surface parking, those 66 parking spaces when you did the townhouses, and you didn't. You created a parking problem for our community. The original agreement was that there was going to be permitted parking in the neighborhood, and there were going to be no permits issued to your tenants, townhouses or the other building. At that time, in 2007, I wasn't on council. I was a resident working with the neighborhood and the JPI. When you guys came along, I was on council. You guys came before us and thought that, oh, there's lots of street parking, because you guys were looking at it during the daytime. And we tell you, no, there wasn't a lot of parking. Come during the evenings when the residents are home. We made sure that your townhouses, because that was the main problem, because you had a parking garage for the apartments. The townhouses had the potential of creating a parking issue in our neighborhood. They have, since you built them, created a problem for parking in our neighborhood. The 66 parking spaces was for the townhouses, visitors, overflow, and retail. And that total was a low number. So when I see in here that it's a public amenity that you're providing these parking spaces, it does not sit well with me. Another issue I have is the original DSP called for 41,540 square feet of commercial retail. And now you're coming to us saying you want to do only 3,739 square feet of retail. if you look at Monument, there's only one business there, commercial business. You look at the flats, there's no commercial business, retail for amenities for the residents of the neighborhood. I mean, we were talking walkable nodes back then, and building amenities and things that our residents, both of your building and of our neighborhood, would benefit from. 3,739 square feet, that's one or two retail spaces. The amenity that you mentioned about the health, fitness, and all that, that was supposed to be a Gold's Gym. Yeah, open to the public. There's so many things that
okay, thank you.
Doesn't sit right with me at this.
Appreciate that.
So you are going to be doing a new traffic study?
So they will be doing a new traffic study?
We just did one October.
We've done one back in October.
October. And in terms of parking spaces, we didn't anticipate waiting this long to build the apartments. So I can't imagine we had planned to have surface parking spaces allocated to anybody. Now, I know years after, and because we've gone through, and our attorney's not here that did the zoning, but we've gone through, I think, seven different changes and modified this, modified that. There was a request probably 5 years ago to park there temporary, and I was concerned that if I allowed people to park there, they'd get used to it, and then when I had to do a building, I'd have a problem. So I said no at the time, and I was concerned about that. But we never intended to build temporary surface parking ever, as far as I know. Now, I did not directly do the zoning, so I can't tell you what was said or not said because I wasn't there.
I mean, I can go up in my attic and find the original DSPs.
Okay, thank you.
I still have them. But where are they? Why aren't we seeing where the cutouts are? Why are we asking? Where's the parking lot cutouts going to be? Why am I wondering, what the ground floor that was supposed to retail is looking like?
Is
How
that
are you
the
fitting in 3,739 square feet into that whole frontage? There's a lot we're not seeing here.
Thank you. So is this going to be part of the concept plan, which is not available right now? Am I correct? The new development?
I think we've provided a link, which I'm looking at on the approved plan site that is currently was updated in 2025.
Okay.
But I can send that out again to the council because there are some plans and there is the updated DSP on this that was approved by the director. Miriam, do you want to? I mean, I'll let you come up here, but or you want to just go to the dais?
I don't recall. I was on council in 2025.
No, it's been updated.
No, it was updated
It's
by.
updated,
It was
2025.
updated by at the planning directors at the planning department level, not by the council, but it did go back to the planning director because it was a revised DSP. But let me.
Right. So Metropolitan has an approved detailed site plan. So those plans haven't changed from what was originally approved. But we did give you, didn't you say you gave them the link? Otherwise, I can give you the link to the plans.
You said it as well. We forwarded a set of links, but I can send them again.
But it's not in the packet.
I can make sure that we can attach those.
Yeah, it wasn't in the packet because they're just requesting the pilot tonight. But that detailed site plan was approved 2013. So there hasn't been any changes to that.
What has been updated then? The parking, traffic this time?
There's little minor changes. Like I think they reduced the number of units.
Okay.
So they had a number of amendments. I think 8 amendments, but each one did like a little different tweaking, not anything substantial. If it was substantial, then the planning director couldn't approve it. And I'm talking about the park and planning director, not me, the one in the county.
Okay, appreciate it. Let's go to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're not done yet?
Not done yet.
Oh, excuse me.
On affordable housing,
please. Yeah, please wrap it up if you could, please.
Yeah, on affordable housing portion, 10%. We're talking 24 units. That's not enough. I mean, Montgomery County does 12.5 to 15%. And at 80% AMI, we have the Atworth at 80% AMI, and it's not affordable. A lot of faculty and staff can't afford to live there. So we're looking, if 85, too high. If we go like 15% and split it
Yeah,
10%, 5% at different rates of AMI, now we're talking business.
All right. Is
So
that all?
come back to us with better numbers on that.
Thank you.
Can you,
Any comments?
can you let them?
Do you want to respond?
Please.
Well, we've been putting forth various different versions. Now, the current one that we put forth this morning actually was the 60, 80, 100, and 120. We had earlier had commented about the 85 for all of them in terms of all of the 10%. And we're open to listen. The thing is if the numbers don't work, it still don't work, no matter what I want to do. Now, there's been a lot of pressure on interest rates and on the way the banks lend and all this stuff. It's difficult to get these numbers work. We very much do want to get this job done and get it finished.
Thank you. Can you please send those new numbers to us and their breakdowns about the 60%?
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you for coming out this evening. If you could, I'm asking staff if they can send us a hard copy of the revised DSP, because links are great, but I would like to have a hard copy for my own record-keeping purposes. Again, I appreciate you coming in. It's kind of ironic that I'm sitting here, and it feels like deja vu with you. I guess I'm still stuck on, when it comes to money, that you're asking for a letter from the city for a pilot to move forward with your project in conjunction with, if I'm correct, assistance from the county. Am I correct?
I believe that you are correct.
Okay.
I think I understood you.
I'm doing good. What time is it? It's 10:19. I'm doing real good. Someone else is, okay. So in essence, you're saying that in order to make this work, you have to have funding from both parties, because you pay cash for the property.
Yeah, yes, and I'm prepared to put in $30 million, and part of it's because the program on Opportunity Zone requires it to be capital gains, and I have capital gains to put in. Still, that's not sufficient to make the project work.
Okay. And with the pilot, just want to, and Michael, this is not much, you want 10 years for a pilot.
The pilot from the county is a 15-year pilot and 75%.
Okay.
And we in the presentation, we did have the numbers, so you could see the numbers. That was done by Municap.
We do not supply the 15-year pilot.
Oh, we're going to
Sorry.
say so. Okay. So if you're not able to obtain, okay, let me rephrase this. If you're not able to obtain consent from us here at this body, what are your plans moving forward?
Well, I know for sure I can't build it. As for what happens in the future, not sure of that, but I know I can't build it.
But you plan to remain holding the property, because
Probably.
unless you sell it.
Probably. It's not, I mean, if I had an interest carry cost, it'd be different. I don't have one. I do have taxes. I mean, over the course of the time I've had it vacant, I've spent $400,000 in taxes. But that's basically my expense.
Okay. I guess, in all honesty, I'm going to just say I'm just concerned about granting any type of consent for this project, knowing the history of the development. And again, I was with Councilmember Hugh when we served together in District 4 together. And I know what we went through with the other project across the street and the promises that were made and were not kept. and we have problems to date with the traffic pattern and many other issues, and that now you still sitting on a project all these years later, now voila, you're here. I don't want to sound mean or disingenuous, but I have to look at the whole total picture of who I represent and who I'm going to support as far as my District 2 representatives. And if it's me saying no, then I don't have a problem saying that, but I can't even get the last words out of my mouth tonight on this one. I'm just really disappointed that we're sitting here and we're being asked for something that you probably won't be able to even fulfill on your promise.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember.
I wasn't finished, Mr. Mayor, but thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ranker, next.
I am new to this project, and I have appreciated what I have sensed is your candor in terms of the finances with what you plan on doing with it and all those pieces. I have a couple of questions. Has our staff seen a pro forma?
I'd be more than happy to give a pro forma.
Cool, great. So up to now we haven't. I'm sorry I hadn't asked that on email.
We had in the package we had references from Berkadia, which we've been talking to them to help do the financial packages, so that in that package it will show the bars and requirements for what's needed for whatever type of loan you're getting, and we've did summations in order to say the return is X and Y, and this is what they need to make it work. So they've gotten that information, but we have no trouble giving the complete pro forma if that's what you guys want.
Great. No, I think that's helpful. I have a couple questions for staff, and then, depending on the answers there, we'll see where this goes. So, in what I'm understanding then is that in the packet, the ask to be included in Tax Credit District 1, City Revitalization Tax, that is not something that we can legally provide at this time.
That's right. Sorry. So what we discovered was that the DSP, of course, we all agree was very old, and it had already been processed. And so one of the rules that we have in the tax credit program is that you have to apply and state an interest before you start that process. We shared it with the attorney today, Art Horn. He understood that if there were a willingness by the council to move and let this letter of endorsement go to the county level, I think because of the developer's willingness to scale down and try to meet some of the 60% guidelines on rentals for the workforce, I think that there would be an ask from my office, of course with the support of Mr. Young, to see if we could somehow make a contribution to the parking areas instead of doing the tax credit, but at least help out in the development area to help with the traffic issues in the parking for the residents, albeit I understand that they were promised years ago. I'm trying to see if we can move off the dime and make progress here. But that's if there was an agreement to make that happen. So right now, no tax credits because they're not allowed under the current rules.
So I'm just a little concerned that it's hard to have this conversation if what we're hearing is you can't go forward without the city tax credits, and we're saying we can't legally provide them. It sounds like we're just between a rock and a hard place here.
Well, we understand, maybe you can help me with it. This is an informational meeting. The actual vote on what you did is, what date?
the 19th.
Okay.
The 19th.
Okay.
So-
Which is next week, yeah.
Which we can supply the information that you're requesting and be able for staff to look through it and see what they think.
Great. Then a question then, again, for our staff. The pilot from the county, my understanding, and again, you know, this is for all of us because we're not on the county level, right? This is not under our purview necessarily, but my understanding is that a pilot isn't only granted for affordable housing. Is that correct in Prince George's?
Sure, there are some other agreements made with the tax, with the pallet agreement, payment in lieu of taxes, and I believe there was one issue that you all thought that you were going to agree with the county. Can you tell us what that was or what that is on the 15 years?
Oh, well, I know Municap is the one that's analyzing it and presented it to the county 2 days ago.
Okay, so Municap is there for ease here, the financial advisor to the Metropolitan Group, and I believe that the county has had an openness to agreeing to some other covenants about what they're going to do. I thought that there was also, the county was going to get you to commit to what, 85, at least 85% for 10% units?
Well,
Is that correct?
when we presented to them, that was the number that we used. They were supportive. The economic people were supportive, and Mr. Olson was also supportive.
Okay, but we know now that we're coming back with 60% numbers, guidelines on the units that we're agreeing to for Metropolitan. So those numbers, as far as the city of College Park are concerned, are going to be in that 60% neighborhood. As far as what the county is agreeing to, the 85% for this agreement and for us to move past and get them down the road, we can agree to make us efforts to go 60% in the category of what, 24 units are we talking about?
Well, you'd be segmenting 24.
Segmenting 24
to
units.
60, 80.
60, 80, 100, 120. And we can definitely, I think I've shared some numbers
Mr.
for you.
Williams, hold on. Can I have a motion to extend?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed and abstention? The meeting is extended.
I've shared with, thank you, I've shared with you today some breakdowns of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms in terms of the costs and what they look like at the at 85 and then going through the 40-60% range. I've done that through an email a couple of times, and I can send it again if you don't have it. But that's where I hope that at some point we can get to, and we'll give you pro formas and anything else that would help you get to a decision, either affirmative or no. That's fine. Just want to make sure that you have the requisite information that you want.
I appreciate that. And so basically, so what I hear you saying is the pilot for the county is dependent on some affordable units.
Yes.
And so what they have seen is 10% at 85
Yes.
% AMI. Obviously, you hear from us. And then, Director Williams, do you have any hard numbers on how many current vacancies there are in the 80% AMI in Atworth, for example, or, you know, because, and I want, you know, hear me out too. It's not just that we want more affordable units. We do, but I'm genuinely worried if we're building more where we already have vacancies, you're going to end up with, you know, units that aren't being rented, which obviously hurts the bottom line too. And knowing that you do have a plan to sell, you know.
Thank you for the question. We sent out a late article today, kind of speaking to how the markets aren't playing along with what you prescribe or think that's going to happen in the future with rentable units. Atworth, There are some units, I can't tell you if it's 10 more or 4 more. Just recently, they still struggling to get at a level of occupancy that they can kind of pound their chest on. I can tell you early in 2025, they were still at or below 50%. And then you kind of get into ownership gets into the area of just trying to get tenants in. And so I don't know how compromised you get on that. And I wouldn't say that. I just know that Atworth, outstanding property, great people working there, but you still have to bring them in. And so they've been challenged with that. At the 80% level, I would have to tell you that I would think that it would be 10 or less units available now. In that 40 to 60% range, as well as the flats, they're sold out, cannot be found. Right.
No, and that's yeah, I really appreciate it. That's really helpful. I'll reserve for now.
So, thank you. So there looks like the applicant is interested in reducing the AMI level as part of the pilot application. Am I correct?
In terms of 60%, is that what you're?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But will that satisfy our council? I mean, it looks like we are still not interested in giving tax credit, but you are. I see that gap that you are still expecting the council to give you a tax credit. Am I correct?
No, I got corrected. My counsel didn't talk to me this afternoon, and he talked to Arthur Orm, which is my counsel.
Okay, so
that information I haven't gotten yet.
Okay.
So I'm not assuming now, obviously, that I'm not asking anything from this council.
You're not okay. You're not expecting that.
Yeah, other than the letter, there may be. I am somewhat intrigued about Eric Olson's idea of the decel lane being changed. I don't even know what that process would be. I would probably entertain needing support from maybe that, but other than that, I wouldn't need anything else.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could answer your question,
please.
I think I think we all have interest in more affordable units.
Correct.
But we also are cognizant of financial pressures. So I think that pro forma and having staff look over that and kind of, make some determinations would help me.
Okay.
Making a decision on whether that
we should be supporting the pilot.
The split makes sense.
Okay. So we do not need to decide tonight whether we should be supporting the pilot. It will be based on some of the information for you. Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I thank you, Councilman Rank. I think from all of us, but I guess yielding to our District 2 colleagues, how do they feel about this? It's in your district.
So the question is.
I had my hand up.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes. So I didn't hear an answer about what your plans are for your retail space. 3,739. It's not going to cut it for me. Not coming down from 41,540.
We have a fitness center, and we've laid it out, and we got it approved through the county. Now, it's not a great retail center in terms of retail is struggling as it's hard access visually, so it's not a prime retail area.
The original design had the Gold's Gym, that square footage you're talking about on the second floor, the whole ground floor, that 41,540 included the whole ground floor being retail.
Well, you may be thinking of the JPI submission, because I know what at least the design was, and it didn't have a second floor anything in terms of amenity. And until today, I had not heard that the monument site was a part of the JPI sites, because the only one that we saw and the only one we bought was the site we got, not the other site.
So what site plan are you using?
Well, the site plan that was originally approved did not have a second-story retail area.
So it says 4 times in that DSP, 41,540 square feet of retail. It says 4 times in there. I looked it up today. So how do you miss that?
Well, I'll bring the drawings. I'll have the original set if you want, and you can see the current one that we have approved and the one we're trying to get approved, if that helps.
Okay, perhaps you can provide that information before next week's meeting. District 2, we depend on you. Councilor Mackey, first bite.
I just have a question. So to be honest with you, I didn't hear that you were planning on resurrecting this project until I think last week. So I was wondering, why, there's been a lot of years that it has. I wasn't on council when it has. I do live in College Park during that time, but I was wondering why. I mean, we're not given a lot of time to process this. What is your idea about the time frame? Because to be honest, I mean, when I saw this, Councilmember Jordan told me she was having a meeting with you, and that was the first I knew that this project was being resurrected. We all know that it's been an eyesore on Baltimore Avenue, but we have a lot of concerns because now the flats are there. So I was wondering, would you consider possibly slowing things down, or you can't really because the pilot has to be okay?
Well, I'll give you maybe a little more detail. Chairwoman Simmons asked me that question, and it gives you more time to think, what's really causing something. It's not that we haven't done performers on this project before. We probably have looked at it 2, maybe 3 times. The numbers didn't work, so we put it back in the drawer because we had no reason to interest clock to run on doing something. What actually created the interest clock? Which, in terms of what was the clock that got me starting to really think about it? It's the Opportunity Zone clock, and that clock, the Opportunity Zone 1 has a clock, and then the Opportunity 2 also has a clock, and so that is saying, well, that's to get the benefits of the Opportunity Zone, I have to meet the definitions of what the clock timing is, and that's causing some of the timing I got now. Now, the benefits, I don't know if you're familiar with the Opportunity Zone benefits.
I know some of them.
Well, first thing you got to use cap gains, which you can shield, not so much because I used up most of my clock. You don't have to recapture depreciation, which you normally would do in real estate deals. And the appreciation value over 10 years, you get to keep that and don't get taxed on that from a federal level. Now, those things are incentives, but the deal still has to work, still has to get financed.
Okay, all right. Let's go to District 2 colleagues with the question we have. So we are waiting for some information, and the tax credit issue is out of the table, right? But it's still, they're expecting us, the applicant is expecting us to support the pilot application to the county. And that staff is asking if we could consider it. That's up to the council next week's meeting. What's our thoughts?
So my first question is, for you, what happens if the June 1st deadline comes and goes? Is there any avenue for you getting the pilot from the county at a later date?
Well, our consultant that's focused on that is Unilife. Sorry about that. I believe, from what they've told me, but I'm not an expert, so I'm relying on what they've told me, is that it's probably once a year they look at these pilot programs, and that's this date. Now, did I know that that had the criteria if you told me if I knew about that 4 months ago? The answer would be no. I didn't know that that date was looming so quickly ahead of me. And frankly, I didn't really become aware of it short of about probably 5 weeks ago.
I will echo my my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Mackey, that I didn't find out about it until shortly before the meeting as well. And so that's something that if we could have staff bring those to us sooner, especially when there's some actionable item for it. Not for you, but just
we just met with Mr. Lassard less than a week before we put this on the. So we brought this as soon as we got it. So everybody's been as transparent as possible. We got this less than a week, and so we put it on this one because of the timeline.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, we were looking at the performer, but we didn't realize there was a deadline.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask
Sure.
So, can staff disseminate information about the Opportunity Zone? What is it? What will it encompass for this prospective client here, as well as a DSP again that has the updated traffic study? To my District 2 colleagues, I'm going to say to you, please think about this wholeheartedly, about the path moving forward. We keep approving projects with the hope that the prospective client is going to work with us with our Declaration of Covenants. And as long as I sat on the dais, we've been burnt 4 or 5 times in regards to what was promised to what was actually developed. So I would just say to you, think about what is your goal and vision for your district, and I hope you articulate with all the rest of us on this day down here by next week what you want to do.
Okay, thank you. We do not need to respond right now because we're still waiting for some information. I know it's late. We got this one pretty late, and staff, thank you, staff, for sharing as soon as you got it. But unless you want to say anything about next week's meeting about the approval, you do not need to say that. You can always decide it later on. Councilmember Simmons.
Thank you. I think I just do want to echo, it seems like there's a bit of additional information that we need if we are able to get a little bit more information about your finances, the Opportunity Zone. I think that'll be really useful. It is helpful to understand that we have a little bit more time with this, although I gather that the clock is ticking. I understand that there is a lot of history with this project, hard feelings in some cases. I am young and naive, and I don't share those quite yet. But I do take the being implored to think holistically about what we want for our district. I certainly do keep that in mind. When thinking about this project, I do think that there is some information, and this is perhaps a little bit of a detailed nuance, but some information to be hammered out about the parking on that first floor for the townhome residents. And then certainly when it comes to housing affordability, I think that's something that, for me, top of mind, particularly as my colleague, Councilmember Oates, mentioned very long ago. That is something that quite a few of us campaigned on, so that is certainly a priority. And I think I just want to cap by saying I appreciate that you all are here now. I do think that this site particularly is one that many of us do want to see a really excellent project be constructed on. So I'm heartened that you're here. I appreciate that you are. I'm glad you're working with various professionals in different fields who can assist you with this development. And I do hold out the hope that we will see something very productive in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hernandez?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's clear that, like, I want to help. I mean, this entitlement process already passed through, right? All of the checks, it exists. I would love to be supportive of developing this space because it's there, and I appreciate you all being willing to go back and consider the 60%. I think that's definitely something that is gonna fit much better to our liking. I just want to make sure that it was clear that we're welcoming of it. It's just it also just feels like it was put upon us. Like,
Well, I understand.
I mean, out of nowhere, decades later. So I appreciated your candor before. I'd appreciate it in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and it is getting late. I do want to say that I want to acknowledge the the room that the developers and their team, led by Art Horn and others, their effort to go down to 60% when I knew we didn't want to hear anything about 85 to 90%, 100%. And that's something that we haven't heard. Earlier tonight, you couldn't even get anyone to say 60%. The opportunity zones, I did a very nice, quick email to the mayor back, I believe, in February, in terms of showing, giving some mechanics of the opportunity zones. We are expecting some changes from the federal government in terms of what they label as OZ2, Opportunity Zones 2. It's probably going to be mid to late summer. I'll share them with you, and I will regurgitate the email that I sent out, going 1, 2, 3, 4, for opportunity zones that I sent out a couple months ago. I do want to also mention to you, retail sounds fancy, sounds really good. It's really, really hard right now in this time to fill up a shopping center or an apartment complex with retail. And so the 50,000 square feet is a huge number. 3,000 square feet, maybe not as much as we need or as much as we want. But I would say this, that the county and the Prince George's County EDC has stated over the last couple of years that there's so much retail space in Prince George's County, if you shut down 50% of it in the entire county, that we would still have too much. And David Iannucci has preached that quite a lot. So I just wanted to offer that just from my office and things that we do, we work on, we know. I'll get you the rest of the information that you requested. Thank you.
Councilor Jordan. Councilor Hill is actually running late.
Thank you. Just to sort of present my District 2 thoughts on this. So I very much appreciate all the background and wisdom from my colleagues. I do want to see a project move forward that's there. I want to see a development do well and thrive and bring things to our city. I do have pause about the things that we talked about. Like the way that I would see it is that staff would work on a letter, which we would then decide at the next council meeting about whether we want to put that forward and what would go in it. I appreciate you coming to speak with us. I appreciate all the gestures. Like I said, I have issues that I have pause for, many of which were elaborated this evening, but I wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hugh.
Yes, College Park, North College Park, is not the rest of the county. When you're talking about retail spaces, we have very little amenities to our residents in north of 193. We have paint stores, automotive, new cars, car repairs. Very little for all our regular single-family houses, and for the flats, Monument Village, now Metropolitan. We're bringing a certain density in without any amenities, any retail. How is that going to create any kind of walkable node? How is that going to create any sort of viability for North College Park?
Thank you.
I don't agree with the statement that we don't need more retail there.
I did not say that. I didn't say that you don't need any more. I'm also going to remind you that you had 2.1 million visitors to a shopping center in North College Park by the end of 2024 through 2025. Yeah, we've had some stores closed. And at that, I think I'm just going to back down. And thank you very much.
Thank you. I know we can have this conversation later on. So it looks like what I'm hearing from my District 2 colleagues that it might be a good idea at least to have a staff prepare a draft letter, and then in next week we may consider it based on the information we'll be getting between now and the next week. Am I hearing it correct?
I would say it's always good to be prepared for eventualities, but I wouldn't presuppose a decision.
Yeah, that's fine. It will be up to the council. Right. Thank you.
We got you.
I
Thank
got
you.
it.
Thank you
I
very
got
much
the
for the
direction.
feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for staying and presenting. All right. See, the very last item we have the public safety assessment and services study, and this will be again taken by our deputy city manager,
Yeah.
Ms. Hexpeth.
Okay. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Oh, I didn't know if we're going to pull this up for the record. I think it is. I just didn't talk into it. Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight we're going to do a brief presentation, hopefully, because I know of the late hour. I beg your indulgence on this regarding the public safety study and assessment. I'm not going to go through all the slides because I think that you've read most of them, but I'm just going to do a quick highlighting, and then myself and Mr. Kokar will come up to the table and answer any questions you have. So let me go first. Gosh, I hate this thing. Okay. Ugh. I feel like I'm 90 years old right now. Okay, next. All right, next. All right. So what I wanted to what we wanted to start with is the council comments from the last meeting, provide some guiding principles. I'm going to kind of skip over some of the things, the strengths and weaknesses gap, but really then kind of go through what we're looking for as far as expanding policing and the proposed timeline and the estimated cost, just to kind of keep it brief. So what we wanted to make sure is that we heard what the council said, which was taking a fresh and broader look at public safety, going beyond just a police-centric format or framework, concerned that the original format focused too heavily on policing and did not sufficiently look at community-based alternatives, looking at different types of models, examining where the AJHs or the other jurisdictions, other authorities having other jurisdiction are incorporated, so like talking about our partnerships with the University of Maryland and other policing agencies, supporting neighborhood-based strategies, interest in the use of technology, responsible technology, and AI-supported tools, and then looking at the contractual strategy discussions, again, in a closed session. Some of the guiding principles we looked at was, first, looking at community first. Safety is broader than just enforcement. Finding the right responder and right resource. Transparency and accountability. Just making sure that whatever we're doing is we're keeping those items transparent with our partners and the city council. A clarity of our authority, providing the roles for residents and stakeholders, and then having data-driven outcomes, focusing on the results and not just staffing, and then also looking at cost estimates, assessments, and options. Because I think that part of the last study, we focused a lot on the cost estimates, and in this combined approach, we'll be looking at those cost estimates and assessments as well. Okay, I'm going to go through some of these slides that I put in were some of the strengths and weaknesses. I think everybody read them, and I can sit down and answer them, so I don't want to go through that now. We did this balance of, what the safety landscape is, so some of the community needs, and then those of the some of the demand, and then some of those existing needs in a balance board. Looking at the community policing model here that we have in College Park, that Prince George's County PD is, we have the contract model as them as our primary responder. We're looking at more relationship building efforts with the police and the community, and responsiveness in meetings and large-scale events, which they do well, and then coordination with the public safety manager, which is recently added to the city. And then as we expand that, looking for some improved visibility, more foot patrols or bike patrols, dedicated community policing for officers in College Park, maybe some problem-oriented policing units. Performance expectations and engagement, not just the enforcement, making sure that residents see them and that they're visible more. Strengthening collaboration with city services and neighborhood groups, and then some new models for collaboration, And then the outcomes for this would be community trust indicators, reductions in repeat calls, and then overall resident satisfaction. Again, this is another thing to basically talk about how from the contractual service delivery model, that governance oversight, and then some other factors. When we're talking about it, we're just kind of looking at the scope of services we're providing, that kind of staffing mix that we have in the contractual model, the supervision and deployment of those of resources. That governance oversight is looking at the authority and who do we have under a contract, the data access and reporting transparency. I think there's been some issues that we want to make sure that that everyone's getting good data, and it's data that's not measuring the whole district and is more tailored to College Park. Ability to set priorities and performance standards, and then more contract flexibility and looking at those limitations of a contract. Some other financial factors that we would look at if we're going to look at staffing is that some of the rising costs, personnel and materials and fuel costs, the longevity of the current workforce, hiring new officers in this competitive market, and then the automated processing. As we move to more automated enforcement programs, that increases the amount of time that's spent on that. And then the other financial factor when looking at the study is facilities and HQ. So, if you do have a physical department, you're going to have facilities and the equipment that are requisite to that. I'm going to go a little bit beyond, because I think some of these are kind of repetitive, but it again talks about how some of these neighborhood strategies and the prevention are in here. We've kind of tried to map out what those would look like for the council, and I'd like to get more comments from you all on if we were able to address the questions and some of the issues that we heard on the 14th. Here's the overall timeline, which I think is kind of important. So from June to August, what we would like to do is that for contracting updates, we would start to sit down with the direction from council and review the contracts and some of the existing provisions in our contract, which was last redone in about 2012 or 13. It's been a little bit that we've made some major changes. We have the concurrent jurisdiction agreement with University of Maryland that was in 2013. So looking at those agreements, looking at some enhanced policing models as well, reviewing the current services to augment those other community services as with other providers, and then starting to evaluate the traditional public safety. So evaluating the previous study with the feedbacks and corrections, and starting to put that into a framework with this council to kind of say if that's chosen, if we're doing on this dual path. In July to August, we would then provide some recommendations in the contract model. Same thing on the enhanced, provide the consultant recommendations for the community policing model, or where we're going to go with community policing, with the consultants. Provide some data on the traditional consultant during that July through October timeline to try to give them some of the data we've already collected, things that we have, and maybe using and looking at how we can, leverage things that we can get to provide them in regards to our stats with the county. November through March, on the contracting again, we start to do the community input and provide some direction. I'm thinking, sometime in the fall that we would start our community input on all of these. And try to put everything at the same time where we're having community meetings, talking about what we're doing, talking about some preliminary results so that the council and the community can kind of know where we're going. And then through March, because it's the budget process, kind of figuring out how do you look at it for 28 and 29. And again, that's where in 28 and 29, that would be budget implementation on any of these, depending on council direction. Okay, so I think the interesting part is that where do we see the estimated cost going? We had budgeted about $50,000 initially for this whole project. We were thinking like 35 to 50. We didn't want to spend all the 50. But when we start to talk about some of the enhanced policing models and try to talk and do some of the research on it and get some actual programmatic things. We estimate that this may cost us a little bit more. And then doing the traditional police study, again, that's where I still have the same 30 to 50. Now, I know that there might be ideas that we could use other, kind of use some less expensive models, or trying to kind of crowdsource some of this thing. I think the only issue that I would say as a staff member, I would rather for this to come from a third party, a professional group especially regarding the police assessment, because of the fact that I don't want staff one way leading you one way, and I don't necessarily know if we'd certainly invite help from the university, but I just don't know how much help we could get to get this done. And I think in the time period, doing some of those numbers would be helpful. We have a lot of data, and I think that we can provide any consultant with data so that it's not that they're not spending a lot of their time seeking data, and I think we have a lot of good information. So I'm hoping that we bring things down to this lower level versus a higher level. So I will do my best to cost contain, but that's the cost that we're estimating. And then all the next steps is that we'd like to obtain council input tonight on the presentation and the overall approach. What we would probably do is bring an item for the scope and budget, if approved, to now probably the June 9th, because the June 2nd, I think you'll have some things that you're going to be looking at that I probably will take more time for me. So probably the June 9th council meeting, and then begin to work with partners on the data gathering and developing a proposed outreach process. So those are the steps, and we're going to sit down if that's okay. Jatinder, do you want to join me at the table so we can?
Certainly. Michelle, sorry, Shpat, June 9th is a work session, isn't it? It has to be, if we're expecting the council to approve something, that has to be in a regular meeting?
It will be at a regular meeting. That's when I'll bring back everything for the regular meeting. We're doing, this is a work session.
June 9 is a work session, am I correct?
They're both regular meetings.
Oh, really?
They're both regular meetings. There's no work sessions.
Oh, there are only 2 meetings?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're both, that's the reason why we can have either day.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, it's late, but I'm sure there's lots of questions. Who raised their hands first? Can I start from right? Okay.
Thank you, and appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I think my commentary from having read what was in the packet is that there's a lot on kind of like, what are we going to do? How do we augment services? That piece. I think what I had tried to convey at the earlier work session was really wanting to see more on helping us diagnose the problem or understand. I think particularly for council, it's important, like we all live in different neighborhoods, moved to College Park at different times, have experienced this community in different ways. And I think it's important to level set on like, what is it that we together are seeing from a public safety perspective before we get into discussions on what are we trying to do to address those problems. Because I think if we don't do the understanding what is reality, what are the public safety challenges that the city faces, inevitably we will all reach different conclusions about what are the steps that we should be taking in order to address the problems that we perceive but that might not be shared among others. And so I think that's actually a really important part of the study, is figuring out and like having a common understanding of what reality is with regard to public safety and what the data say. So I think that was kind of, maybe reflected in a few things, but I think to me, like that's the first step. Then the second step is, okay, this is the reality. Here's what we're already doing to address it. Here are the things that we should be thinking about doing to better address, it's like, here are the things we're trying to do to already address it. Here are the things that we can change in order to better address and solve some of those problems. So really, again, appreciate your efforts on this, and that's my main comment.
Thank you. And I appreciate that the staff has put a segment or element about public engagement and getting input from public, so that probably in some way take care of it.
I think it's the way it was framed in this, the public engagement part is about what are the augmentations to our services, or what is it that we're doing about it. I think to me, literally, this is like understanding, hey, what are response times? What are the things that people say, hey, I'm scared to walk at night because I'm worried about getting robbed, or I'm worried about this or that, right? Like helping us more viscerally understand, like, what are the types of problems that we're trying to solve. Perhaps the city already has this, in which case, like, great, we can cross it off the list. But I think really having a better understanding of, College Park is very diverse, it's very big. People have different problems, and I and District 3 don't want to not think that a problem that somebody else is seeing in a different part of College Park is not important, because I just have never heard of that issue or aren't aware of those things. And so I think helping us understand what it is that we and our residents are seeing writ large, such that then we can target our interventions to address those kinds of issues.
Thank you. All right, what's the next? Councilmember. Sorry. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Mackey.
Yeah, I also agree with Councilmember Oates, and I just thought it was a great report that was written. And as we know, our residents have said that safety is one of their top priorities. So I'm putting my thoughts in really concisely. So I think that the best way to serve our community is to do this study and to engage with the residents, to gather facts, to determine costs and consequences, and analyze what we have and what we could have. And that's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's sweet. Councilor Hernandez, I see your hands.
It is quite late, and I greatly appreciate everyone's just time to refine the process of what has started quite a long time ago. I really want to make sure to emphasize that while there's a number of different considerations that my colleagues have put forward, that there is a specific attention done to provide a robust assessment of policing factors, including the costs, current state considerations, and areas of opportunity where we can grow. I'd also like to explore other measures to leverage and increase response time and service to our neighbors. I've seen a number of different comments, whether it's today or on social media or via email or via blogs. I need to be clear. I think it's irresponsible for us to message in any way that any considerable change to the status quo will somehow be cost neutral. I think there's a lot of factors to consider, and I hope that this study is able to do that.
Certainly. Thank you. Councilmember Ranker, and then Councilmember Jordan.
I want to echo Councilmember Oates and Mackey that it's really important that we level set, that we're all understanding and seeing the problems and then figuring out the solutions. And so, because otherwise we're putting the cart before the horse. We're coming up with a solution, but we don't know. And, right, we all know that maybe the scooter riders are going to be, more of an issue in Calvert Hills than they are going to be in some other parts of the city. So, that'll really help us get a good, complete picture of what we got going on. I just want to share, too, with our residents that I've really appreciated the feedback that they've been giving in the public comment. There's a lot of really great suggestions. There's a lot of really great, I've appreciated a lot of the data that folks have shared, and appreciate that. And this is where I think what we have here is really the best of both worlds. We're gonna get those real numbers about, all right, here, once we've understood, here's the problems and the gaps, here's the ways to address it, and then here's actually the real dollars of what it would cost. So I don't want anybody to interpret us trying to understand the problem really well and then thinking about possible solutions as saying we're not going to include the real dollars. We're not going to evaluate what we have right now and whether we're getting our money's worth, or whether we're going to do all of that. We can do all of that well, and I think that this is well on that way to making a good plan for this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Jordan and then Councilmember Hugh.
Thank you. So to Councilmember O's response, I agree that the diagnosis should be our first step and what is motivating all of this, because all of these things are in support of public safety for all of our residents. I think that sort of like current state mindset would be a good thing for it to be sort of focused on the beginning. I would think that could be concurrent. The different issues that the residents have, while also looking at the different sources of policing that we have, or infrastructures, or existing neighborhood watch, or things like that. One thing I'd like to bring up is that we would want to have a lot of, to the extent that we can have data accuracy for both of those things. One example would be for our contract police, making sure that the time that they clock as supporting us, that they're actually in College Park. I mean, just as an example, but those kinds of things, so that when we're looking at data, the data is telling the reality. Similarly, with calls that people put in that don't necessarily get put into our metrics, that we want to see that we're gathering as much information as possible. And then finally, since the hour is late, I just wanted to say, with the report being very thorough, that I would like for us to have to be cognizant of the messaging that we put out to residents, as far as this being a study that has not had a foregone conclusion, that we do not know where the study what the study will find, and we do not know what our course of action will be afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hugh and Councilmember Mitchell.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short, since a lot of great points were made already, which I agree with. And it's not every municipality has as many enforcement entities operating within its city limits. We have Park Police, Metro Police, Sheriff's Office, State Police, University of Maryland Police, and then Prince George's County Police. If all these agencies were patrolling College Park, covering their jurisdictions, if we had a better relationship with them, I think our contract officers could fill in this, the space utilized properly. I think a lot of the response time to a lot of complaints that residents are having need to be focused on with the study, so we can get to a real solution to it, addressing it in an orderly way, which I don't know as a body we've done in the past. I know that the contract officer program was negotiated initially by our public services director at the time, Bob Ryan, many years ago. And so I think a lot of us on the dais here aren't familiar with exactly how that operates. And if we don't get it, I don't know how the residents are going to get it. So I think we need to, I hope this study gets some real results at looking at these issues, and so we can create a relationship with the multiple jurisdictions of police enforcement, with our own contract officers and the county, all of the above, to get where we need to be. The response time, the accountability that they're operating in the city when we're paying the contract officers, all these things, everything's been said. So I really hope that we get some results that we can see a difference and move forward with that.
Good, thank you. Councilmember
Yes,
Mitchell.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. brevity for time, essence time. The report was excellent. I thank you for your thoroughness. Thank you for the staff for putting in a very concise report. I just want to see if we can make sure that we add information from CMAS, the data that they bring, because I think that will help us to shape the outcomes. Also, if we can include the calls that are done to the after hours department, that will also give us some highlights of what kind of calls are being done there. What is the how long is it taking for the person, the contract police, or whoever, get to the actual location of the situation? And finally, Councilmember Jordan mentioned it about messaging, but my point of messaging is expanding it to, as we go along through the process, to provide messaging to the residents about where we are and what has been conducted so far, so that the information is going out to them is consistent all the way. Because I don't want one person interpreting and it goes out and something else is different. Making sure that it's consistent and it's coming from the city.
Thank you. Who else hasn't spoken? Councilmember Simmons, I think, hasn't spoken yet. You don't have anything? All right, so we heard quite a bit. Looks like, what does the staff think from this? Do you have enough direction? You probably need to restructure the schedule in a different way. Am I hearing it correctly?
We will schedule. We'll slightly do it. We'll slightly reschedule it. Yeah, I think that this has been really clear, and I think in some ways, if I'm hearing you, more like some focus groups and maybe the districts that would then help us to set some expectations, and those probably could be part of a framework for an RFP with the consultant, or even staff kind of doing those or doing some surveying, so that we can get the right things to bring to the consultant. So, well, let me sleep and I'll think about it overnight when I'm listening to quantum computing, and now put on city council meeting at night. So I will think about this, cogitate, and we'll remix a little. Okay? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. That's good to hear. And you'll be bringing it back on the June 2nd or 9th?
Probably the 9th.
Probably 9th. Okay. Thank you for your work. Appreciate it. All right. There was a quick one. Sorry. Oh, Mr. Coker, did you have anything to add? Sorry.
I was just going to make one comment. You will see in our bi-weekly updates that we are also beginning to share more incidents there as well as they happen. But we do have sometimes limitations, Councilmember Mitchell, because of the continued investigation, but we are kind of becoming more and more transparent. We are sharing what we could and try to keep those council members into the loop where things are happening.
Thank you. All right, so that was a quick compared to the other two items we had. Let's go to the very last item, which is the request for a status of future agenda item. I think there is one request from Councilor Hernandez. Please go ahead.
Very quickly, I know that everyone wants to go. So this proposal is for the city to explore the possibilities of a community land trust and or bank, whichever makes sense. It would be, so the purpose behind this is trying to gain more leverage in the discussions we have with developers, but also framing out a much better strategy for our land acquisitions across the variety, or I guess across the city, and building and preparing a vehicle that we can use as a strategic tool in property acquisitions. So this, I know it's a complex issue. I spoke with Ms. Anderson about it, and she's going to need to advise with some other additional resources. But essentially, for everyone's conceptual understanding, it would help us essentially buy and purchase properties that we could then have the largest say in what that particular property's use is. My recommendation is that we operate off of a 4 umbrella strategy, one being like commercial properties, which would include areas where we could potentially purchase a property and attract a high-quality vendor, community interest in supporting some of our community goals of preserving the historic lakeland, or government uses such as expanding public works, conservational preservational goals such as some of the green spaces around the city, and then also using this fund potentially for purchasing properties where we are the first right of refusal, excuse me. It's late. Yeah, so I've talked to most of my colleagues on this.
All right. So this is just for approval to the agenda item, right? Master list. So it looks like there is a agreement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's been added. All right. So that's all we
No,
have.
there isn't, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have a request in regards to agenda item that has already been posted and wanted to see when
What is
it
the
was possible.
status?
The status of it.
What is it?
Charter review.
That's on this summer. And it's on for this summer. I think it's July.
Okay.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Just wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's scheduled.
Okay, and I will
Okay.
have 2 items to bring up next week, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor.
Please do submit an application. So at this time, I
Move
can.
to adjourn?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? The meeting is adjourned.